Good morning. It's 10 o'clock by my computer, and so at this time I will call to order the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners board meeting for April 21st, 2022, and all 5 commissioners are in attendance. And I would at this time call on the senior pastor of Valley Christian Fellowship, Mr. Leo Kruger, for a invocation, if you would, please. Please stand, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by our Clerk Treasurer, Amy Bergens. Thank you.
Well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for the opportunity to do that. And also, I want to say thank you. I know that being a public servant sometimes has its challenges. And I know that you face them every day and every meeting. And I just want to say thank you for serving our county and serving our people. And so just join me. Father, I just thank you for the opportunity to come and pray and ask your blessing, God, upon this meeting. Lord, I pray, Lord, according to your scriptures, Lord, your word says that if we need wisdom, that we can ask for it and you will give it to us. I pray, Lord, for wisdom to be upon this committee, upon these commissioners, upon every person that is here. And Lord God, that they would make decisions that are based upon the scriptures, based upon the principles of your word. Lord, the principles that our country was founded on from the very beginning. Lord, principles of truth, principles of righteousness. And Lord, I just come and ask, Lord, that as they ponder the decisions before them, that, Lord God, they would make those decisions based on those principles. And Lord, I pray your blessing upon each and every one of them. I pray your blessing upon those who are in attendance today. And Lord, that you would just minister to them right where they are, touch them and bless them and let them know your goodness, Lord, to us. And I just pray this right now in the mighty name of our Lord and Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you.
If you'll please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate it. At this time, we'll go into public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker unless additional time is granted by the board chairperson. The Board of Commissioners uses timing lights to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. You will see a green light when you begin, and then a yellow light which indicates that you have 30 seconds left. And we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. And please, when the light turns red, please sit down. In addition to opening public comment will also be taken on administrative agenda items that are identified for possible action and at the end of the meeting for a closing public comment. I would ask those in attendance to please silence your electronic devices. I must have missed something on the agenda because we have a full house today and I don't see too many controversial items on this thing. So, but welcome to everybody and thank you for your attendance. So anyways, at this time, if you, and when you approach the podium, if you'd sign in and state your name for the record, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. And Ms. Granahan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Lisa Granahan, Economic Vitality Manager for the record. I just wanted to give you a quick update on 2 projects. The first part of our Economic Vitality broadband team's work, we are now partnering with Douglas County School District to promote the nevadaspeedtest.org. And this is the internet speed test that allows our residents and businesses to log their internet speed. Next week, when the students return from spring break, an electronic flyer, I've got copies of this out front, will be going out to all of the parents of all of the students, and it will really be encouraging them to log their internet speeds at home, because that's so important to the digital learning aspect. So far, we have 860 locations logged, so we're more than a third of the way to where we want to be. And we're not stopping with just students. We really want to find out if there are homes with no internet connections. And so we have a paper form available at both the community centers in the lake and the valley. And we have paper forms that Community Services is helping me with, and that'll be going out to all of our congregate meal sites in South County, at Indian Hills, at the senior center, so we can gather that data as well. And all of that data will be used to help us apply for broadband grant funding from the state and federal entities. And one other project to update you on, the Martin Slough Trail. Our county engineer, Jeremy Hutchings, who's here, shared with me that we are at 30% completion on the trail. As you know, when complete, the 2.5-mile trail will connect Jake's Wetland to Gardnerville Elementary School. Last week, the county launched a new web page on the trail, so you can go to the county's website, type in Martin Slough Trail, and it'll bring up some really good information about the trail. There's a map there, which is excellent, and GIS has helped upload some pictures along the map to give people an idea, of what this is going to look like and what it looks like now. And I also wanted to share maybe one thing that, is not so known about this trail, but this is another example of partnership with the school district. Conduit is being installed as part of the trail, and that conduit will allow the school district to lay fiber to connect both Carson Valley Middle School and Gardnerville Elementary School to their high-speed, robust fiber network. Those kids have internet access now, but their IT director tells me they're going to be flying once that fiber goes in. So this is just a good example of broadband partnership and utilizing an infrastructure project that's going forward. Our broadband action team would love to see more of this going forward. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Fulkerson. I'm with Western Nevada College. I'm here at the recommendation of Lisa Granahan. It's nice to see her. I haven't met her in person. We're conducting a survey of Douglas County businesses, residents, and organizations. We want to hear from you what your educational and training needs are. This year is the 25th anniversary of our campus in Minden. And Douglas County residents is our second highest population group after Carson City County. We serve 6 counties, and so we're very interested in how we can best serve you, what your needs are. You can find the survey on the Economic and Vitality website. Lisa's put it up there for us. You just go to Douglas County, Nevada, and you can search for WNC survey. I will also leave flyers with a QR code and a website out on the table. We'd love to hear from all of you. It'll be handed out at the business showcase today to all those who attend that. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment here in chambers? Mr. Gaines.
Ted Gaines. I was checking on a building and I happened to run into an ex-retired inspector we have here, fully certified retired inspector. Asked him a few questions. Mr. Weigel was bought here in the late 80s, population 26,000. He was brought here by the commissioners to make sure the inspections got done right because of all the complaints and stuff that was going on. Now, we had all certified inspectors in the 80s with 25,000 people. Why can't we have them now? In fact, the retired inspector is a well-respected inspector, And he said, everything I hear, the place is a mess. Now, I just happened to be going by a house to recheck on it that was final on the 14th. It has no address still out front. It's finalized by one of the new inspectors. I'm sitting there watching it out front. The doors are open, closed. People are opening them, walking in and out. These take self-closing doors. And I understand there's several other things inside that's not done right. Now, this is all procedure that these people are supposed to follow. And I keep telling you, these people are unqualified. You guys got upset at the guy up here in North Valley with the VDR house or the rental house. You're doing the same thing by putting the citizens in harm's way. So why aren't you upset at our building officials? Now, maybe, I don't know, maybe our head building official was playing golf that afternoon. Or maybe he was down here helping the baseball coach, because if you're looking for him about 3 o'clock, you can go to school and usually find him. Now, I still stipulate we need to get certified and legal inspectors. There's a good old boy system coming on here. I know sometime today we're going to evaluate our county manager. Now, a couple of the commissioners went to him with a water problem a while back. $30,000 fee that wasn't paid. He said that was a clerical error. I've talked to 2 different people, one out of the county now, one still in the county. That check came in for that clerical error after you 2 inspectors, you 2 commissioners had questioned him on that fact. So he did not, everything that comes to this county is not truthful. We need to be truthful. It's the only way we're going to get this straightened out. Now, we got a good old boy system going on, and our chief DA don't like some of the things I say. If you don't like them, they can give me some papers. We'll go across the street, because I can prove everything I'm saying. There is correction notice has been wrote out here, and right behind it the same day, the building's been passed. But they're political people and whatnot. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaines. Is there any additional public comment here in chambers? Mr. Ritchie, you had something you wish to say?
I do. Thank you, Chairman Gardner. Doug Ritchie with the Douglas County District Attorney's Office. If there's information regarding an unqualified inspector or someone who does not have, is not certified, it would be helpful if they could provide that information either to the county manager or to Tom Dallaire, who's the Community Development Director, or to myself in the DA's office as to who is allegedly unqualified or who allegedly does not have a certification that's required. It would also be helpful if someone who spoke to a retired inspector has concerns, they could provide that name so I could speak to that retired inspector. And if there is anything, a general allegation that everything that comes out of the county is untruthful is not very helpful. It might be more helpful if there's specific instances of where it's believed there's some untruth coming out. Particularly when it comes to inspections, if there's a site or an address or a location that can be checked, that would also be very helpful. There's been allegations in the past that the county has violated the law. I haven't seen that. If there's a violation by of NRS, I would like to know about that so that we can investigate those allegations. Again, we appreciate people, members of the public, expressing their concerns, but general attacks without any specifics, it's very difficult to follow up on or to help speak to members of the public. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Seeing no other public comment here in chambers, Okay, Mr. Ingalls.
We conducted a survey and an audit of generators that were installed, and we found an amalgamation of problems. Mr. Ritchie, were you present at that audit?
Okay, we're not going to get into a back and forth exchange here. Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Ingalls.
wait a minute, he
So
just made
then
an
I will-
allegation, Chairman.
Mr.
We need to
Ingalls,
stand- we need to
Mr.
stand up.
Ingalls,
No.
We're not going to get into a back and forth today
No,
on
he
that.
just made an allegation.
No,
and I'm
he asked for
challenging that
information.
allegation.
He asked for information.
All
So,
right, folks,
thank
there you go.
Thank you. Ms. Marcia, is there any, Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. There is someone online who has indicated they would like to provide public comment. Mr. Slade, do you have opening public comment?
I do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Please state your name for the record and we'll start your time.
Thank you. Jim Slade. I look forward to the presentation today on wildfire awareness. Last year was certainly one of the most challenging fire seasons in a long time here in Douglas County, with two massive wildfires that threatened our community, the Tamarack and Caldor fires. Unfortunately, some homes were lost in the Caldor fire, but both fires could have been much worse. Thanks to the heroic efforts of our local fire districts and firefighters and countless other firefighters from all over the West, there was no loss of life here, and miraculously, no homes were lost in the Tahoe area to the Caldor fire. Despite the April snows of the last few weeks, the first 3 months of this year had record low precipitation. So the drought will continue, and we need to be prepared for another bad fire season. Preparation, of course, is the best way to avoid the worst possible outcomes. In that regard, especially here in the Carson Valley, that means addressing the wildland-urban interface, specifically where the mountain pine forests transition to sagebrush before entering the valley itself. As Chief Carlini has said, and I think you all understand, for every $1 of early mitigation efforts, $10 of firefighting costs are typically prevented. One of the most effective ways to do that here is through mitigating the danger posed by the highly flammable sagebrush in the transition zone, often accomplished by mastication. There have been programs in the past through E4 Fire Protection District as well as the local fire safe councils to help pay for the cost of that mitigation. Just hoping that the private landowners in that transition zone from pine forest to the valley floor will do the expensive mitigation on their own is wishful thinking and not realistic. I believe it was the state comptroller who made a presentation to this board a few months ago, urging you and all other local government entities to apply for the many billions in aid that was coming to Nevada through federal COVID relief efforts. I don't know if the county or East Fork has applied for any grant funds for that type of fire mitigation, but I can't think of any more valuable and cost-effective use of such available funds. I urge the board, the fire district, and any other local entity involved in fire safety and protection to apply for grant fees for such a mitigation program for sagebrush mastication, specifically through the federal or state funds that might be available for such important fire protection measures or any other potential source of funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slade. Ms. Johnson, is there any additional public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no additional public comment online.
Very good. Thank you. At this time, we'll go into the approval of the agenda. For possible action, approval of the proposed agenda, the Board of Commissioners reserves the right to take items in a different order to accomplish business in the most efficient manner, to combine two or more agenda items for consideration, and to remove items from the agenda or delay discussion related to items on the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda that need to be made? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the agenda be approved as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Noasad. So, motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Noasad to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the previous minutes as presented, the draft minutes of March 17, 2022, regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Is there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Sensing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the previous minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Noasad, seconded by Commissioner Rice to approve the Draft minutes of March 17, 2022, regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Sensing no additional comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. So at this time, we will adjourn or go into recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Douglas County Liquor Board. I would indicate that our Sheriff Coverly serves on the Liquor Board as well, so these two action items, I believe it's two, will have available 6 votes. So I'll read those into the record. Item number 1, for possible action, discussion to approve the addition of Jeff Allen Christensen, Dante James Baki, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Samuel Lewis Huff to the existing unrestricted on-site retail liquor license for Genoa Golf Club, for LLC, DBA Genoa Lakes Golf Club. Jeff Allen Christensen, Dante James Baki, and Samuel Lewis Huff have signed a waiver of notice of hearing. Genoa Golf Group for LLC, DBA Genoa Lakes Golf Club is located at 1 Genoa Lakes Drive, Genoa, Nevada, 89411, and I believe that's being presented by Captain Mitchitarian,
Yes,
who's
good
at
morning.
the podium.
Thank you. Good morning. Captain Ron Mitchitarian for the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. This applicant's background packet is complete, and we are not in objection.
Okay. Do the applicants have anything to say? Are they they're not in attendance, or they are? So, do you have anything that you need to say additional? No? Okay. This is for possible action, so at this time, Commissioners, do you have any questions? Since no questions, we'll go to public comment. Are there any public comments within chambers? Seeing no public comments, are there any, Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you would like to provide public comment on this item, agenda item Roman numeral 1 for the Liquor Board, please raise your hand. No public comment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion and a possible motion. Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the addition of Jeff Allen Christensen, Dante James Bocci, and Samuel Lewis Huff to the existing unrestricted on-site retail liquor license for Genoa Golf Group 4, LLC, doing business as Genoa Lakes Golf Club.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Noasad for the approval of Jeff Allen Christensen, Dante James Baki, and Samuel Lewis Huff to be added to the Genoa Lakes Golf Club unrestricted liquor license. Sensing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item number 2, for possible action, discussion to approve the on-site unrestricted liquor license for Drunk Puppy LLC. Okay. DBA Wild Horse Bar and Grill, represented by Levi Latham, owner. Levi Latham has signed a waiver of notice of hearing. Drunk Puppy LLC, DBA Wild Horse Bar and Grill is located at 1679 U.S. Highway 395N, Unit C, Minden, Nevada, 89423, also presented by Captain Mitchitarian.
And again, this applicant's application is complete. We are not in objection.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay. Any public comment from within chambers? Seeing no comment from within chambers, Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. There is someone online who's indicated they would like to provide public comment. Mr. Slade, do you have public comment on the item on the liquor board number 2?
I do. I assume you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please state your name and we'll start your time.
You won't need to start the time because my comments will be very brief. Jim Slade for the record. I just can't resist saying that I think this is a particularly unfortunate name for this group, Drunk Puppy, given the problems that we have, and the sheriff's office will confirm this, that we have with drunk driving, DUI over the years. I think that's a poor choice of names for someone applying for a liquor license, but that is my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's no further public comment online at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Bring it back to the board. Any comments or a possible motion?
I'm going to make a comment, and they got the greatest food there. So they may not like the name, but I love the food. I'm going to make a motion to approve the on-site unrestricted liquor license for Drunk Puppy LLC doing business as Wild Horse Bar and Grill.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Tarkanian, seconded by Commissioner Rice for the approval of the on-site unrestricted liquor license for Drunk Puppy LLC, DBA Wild Horse Bar and Grill, represented by Levi Latham. The Wild Horse Bar and Grill is located at 1679 U.S. Highway 395N, Unit C, Minden, Nevada, 89423. Sensing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you. So at this time, then, we'll adjourn as the Douglas County Liquor Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. At this time, the consent calendar. No members of the public have indicated a desire to move any of those items. At this time, are there any items that the commissioners wish to move to the admin calendar? If none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the consent calendar from A through V, as in Victor, be approved as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian to approve the consent calendar as presented, items A through V as in Victor. Sensing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay, moving right along. And half the gallery leaves. So, okay, at this time, we'll go into the administrative calendar. And this is for presentation only. Item 1, ceremonial presentation of Proclamation 2022 P-046 designating May through October 22 as Nevada Wildfire Awareness Month. And we have a number of folks that are going to be in the audience, I guess, that will receive this. I'll come down to the podium, and I would ask that Commissioner Rice join me down there for the issuance of item number 2, Proclamation 2022 P-045, designating May through October 22 as Lake Tahoe Wildfire Awareness Months. So.
Morning.
Hi. So I'm not sure I know who this. Yeah, we're gonna do East Fork first.
East Fork, yep.
And then, okay. Deputy Chief Ray is here. Okay, thank you. So proclamation, Douglas County Board of Commissioners, Proclamation 2022 P-046, Nevada Wildfire Awareness Campaign from May through October 2022. Whereas wildfire significantly impacts Nevada's environmental, economic, and social well-being, and whereas residents must prepare to survive wildfire by ensuring proper management of vegetation surrounding the home and appropriate home construction and maintenance to resist ignition, and whereas residents need to work together to prepare their homes and neighborhoods to survive wildfire and commit to become fire adapted, and whereas residents can save precious time in an evaluation by preparing a go bag and family evacuation plan ahead of time. Therefore, be it proclaimed by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners that May through October 2022 is the Nevada Wildfire Awareness Campaign, and this year's banner theme is Battle Born Wildfire Ready in Douglas County, Nevada. Adopted this 21st day of April 2022 by the Board of County Commissioners. So I will be presenting this to Deputy Chief Amy Ray. Do I have your title right? Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Rice. Oh, would you like to say a few words? Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. My name is Jamie Royce-Gomes. I'm the manager of the Living with Fire program, and we are part of University of Nevada Reno Extension, and we help residents to prepare for wildfire. Now, wildfire can threaten Nevadan communities, impact homes, property, and human life. And the key to minimizing the impact are proactive communities who prepare for wildfire. In response, Nevada's local, state, and federal firefighting agencies, wildfire-prone communities, and University of Nevada Reno Extension have created a wildfire awareness campaign since 2006. And so this year's message is Battle-Born Wildfire Ready, just a call for communities to band together and to prepare for wildfire. So we're just really asking residents May through October, and really all year, because wildfire knows no season, to prepare for wildfire. Now, we recognize that Douglas County is a high fire hazard area in the state, and this is one of 4 locations that Cooperative Extension is working with local agencies to give a presentation to the community. So on June 7th, there's going to be a wildfire evacuation and preparedness presentation at the TRE Community Center. It's going to, doors open at 5:30. There will be food there available. And we're working with the Douglas County Extension educator, Lindsay Chichester, for this event. East Fork is going to be there and talking. Sheriff Coverly is going to be there to talk as well. We also asked the Douglas County PIO to talk about signing up for emergency alerts. Extension educator Lindsay Chichester is going to talk about tips for evacuating large animals. Living with Fire will be there to talk about defensible space and hardening your home. NV Energy will be talking about public PSOMs, public safety outage management, sorry. And then we're going to also have other agencies who are involved in fuels reduction efforts just to be there, U.S. Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, and the Nevada Division of Forestry. So this will be in person, and it will be streamed virtually. So if residents can't make it, they can attend virtually, or they can even view the recording. So thank you, commissioners, for this proclamation. We actually have a banner that talks about the Nevada Wildfire Awareness Campaign. We were wondering if we can get a photo op with you and the banner.
Well, why don't we let Commissioner Rice present the other one, and then we can take a group photo, right?
Sure.
Eric, you're now part of a groupie.
Yes.
Proclamation, Douglas County Board of Commissioners, Proclamation 2022P-045, Lake Tahoe Wildfire Awareness Campaign from May to October of 2022. Whereas wildfire significantly impacts Lake Tahoe environmental, economic, and social well-being, and whereas residents must prepare to survive wildfire by ensuring proper management of vegetation surrounding the home and appropriate home construction and maintenance to resist ignition, and whereas residents need to work together to prepare their homes and neighborhoods to survive wildfire and commit to become fire adapted, and whereas residents can save precious time in an evacuation by preparing a go bag and family evacuation plan ahead of time. Therefore, be it proclaimed by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners that May through October 2022 is the Lake Tahoe Wildfire Awareness Campaign in Douglas County, Nevada, adopted this 21st day of April 22, Board of County Commissioners.
Thanks, Wes.
Yeah. So last year, we learned a lot about wildfire. Our county was stressed in multiple locations. I was talking to Wes Rice, Commissioner Rice, and the fire, of course, Caldor fire burning in the direction and we were talking back and forth, and he says, do I have to be ready to go? I know he's always ready to go because he does his bag, but we had those hard conversations, and eventually it was, yes, you do have to be, we need you to go. So the evacuations are something that normally the sheriff, Sheriff Coverly and his department work with the evacuation. We just advise them on how the fire conditions are moving forward. The public needs to be aware and always vigilant for their own safety. Sign up for the reverse 911. That's your call to action. Put in your defensible space. Right now, we're working to get the right tools in our community, right? And you may say, well, don't you have the right tools? Well, the chief is working for this Operation Save the Basin. It's for a Type 1 helicopter. We don't have a dedicated helicopter. If you had your home and you needed a tool and you knew that damage was going to happen to your home, you wouldn't rely on your neighbor to go borrow that tool every time you needed it. Because he's a good neighbor, so he loans it to his neighbors or other people. So that tool's not always available. That's the same condition we have with helicopters. Nationally, they're on go orders, and we lose the national resources that are normally slated for our area. CAL FIRE does not have a helicopter for us. Nevada also has a state helicopter, but it's not the type of helicopter we need to fight these fires. We learned that we need to get on these fires right away. So the Caldor fire and the Tamarack fire showed us that. As that fire continued to grow, if you don't catch that fire right away and put it out, this is the right tool for the job. We can't rely on our neighbors to give us those tools. We need to have these tools dedicated to the Tahoe Basin in our region. So please join us in helping with Operation Tahoe Save the Basin. And thank you very much for this proclamation. Do your defensible space. Harden your homes against fire. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and we know we've seen it last year. So thank you.
Thank you. So we'll do a photo op now, Ms. Bosser. And I would invite, we have a couple of the East Fork Fire trustees with us today. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize them. Mr. Summers just walked into the room. Mr. Curtis is here. And so I would invite you two folks also to join us in this photo op if you're so inclined. So you folks don't mind? Okay. Okay. As we go through these items, our attendance in the chamber seems to dwindle. So at this time, we'll go into item number 3 for presentation only. Update from U.S. Department of Interior, Bureau of Land Management, BLM, Carson City District Office of the BLM's activities in Douglas County, to be presented by BLM Sierra Front Field Manager, I believe, Ms. Stow, right? Thank you. So I would remind the folks, this is a presentation-only item, so we will not be taking public comment on this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, for having us today. The BLM always welcomes the opportunity to share our updates with you. And I just have to say I'm really pleased that I was able to be here today to see that presentation of the proclamation. That was really amazing. So thank you for inviting me on this particular day. I'm Kim Dow. I'm the field manager for the BLM Sierra Front Field Office, and we do have several exciting updates to for projects in the Douglas County area that we'd like to update you on. Before I get into the projects, I'd like to let you know that at the last meeting that we attended in January, Mr. Ken Collum, the district manager, was in attendance, and he is now retired. So he is no longer a part of our organization. He is a part of our retired group and stays in contact with us, but he is no longer our district manager. We do have an acting district manager at the moment. His name is Matt Megaletti. He was unable to be here today, and we are in the hiring process, so we hope to have a permanent district manager very soon. With that, I'll go into some of the projects. The Douglas County Sediment Basins project, that's at the Johnson Lane area. We completed scoping last summer. I'd already reported that out. We were anticipating going out for a 30-day review and comment period in May. I think we can still meet that deadline, but we do have a few cultural resources issues that we're looking at right now, so that schedule is a little bit flexible. I'm still hoping for May, though. The Painted Rock Mine EA, which is also known as the Knox Excavating Project, that's a proposed gravel mine located on the tribal allotment lands, and BLM has a portion of the access to that proposed project. That project is led by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and that EA is going to go out for a 30-day comment period very soon here, either next week or in early May. So that would be an opportunity for the public to provide their comments and input on that project. So that was very timely that we're able to update you on that. I am pleased to announce that the Van Sickle Conservation Easement acquisition is moving along very well. This is a conservation easement that would provide new and expanded hiking and biking trails and outdoor recreation opportunities in Douglas County, right there at the Van Sickle Station. Douglas County approved the monitoring agreement and trail easement on April 7th. BLM completed the final inspection of the property on April 11th. I believe that was just about a week ago. And the documentation has been sent to the title company. The next step now is closing, which we are expecting by the end of this month. So that is really exciting news to finally get to the finishing mark on that one. So I'm excited to get to announce that. The Pine Nuts Abandoned Mine Hazard Closures Project is one that we're working with the Nevada Division of Minerals Abandoned Mines program on. They want to close 70 hazardous abandoned mine features in the Pine Nut Mountains. We're at the mid-stage of this effort. The cultural reviews are complete. We are now just finalizing our review of the wildlife resources, and then we can move forward with approving that project. The Douglas County Shooting Range is another one that I can say we are in the finishing stretches on. This is one where the Douglas County Parks would like to post signs letting the public know that they are approaching a shooting area. We recently sent the land use permit to Douglas County for their review and signature, and that will be the final stages on that one. Those signs can then go up. So that'll be great. The post-fire restoration at the Indian Creek Reservation area, or recreation area, I'm sorry. This summer we'll be doing some salvage logging. We're working on our NEPA compliance right now. We should be having that wrapped up by the end of May, and then we can move forward with a contract for that salvage logging. Liberty Utility has already started removing trees that they have cut down in their right-of-way. And at the last meeting in January when I was here, there was a question about efforts in the Leviathan Mine Road area. We did go back and look at that. We don't have any BLM managed lands in that area. It's all private and U.S. Forest Service. So unfortunately, I can't provide any updates on work that may be going on in that area, but we are working on that salvage logging in our camping area and the surrounding BLM managed lands. And then the Douglas County camping closure, we implemented that in February. When I was here in January, we let folks know that we were going to be implementing it. We have now fully implemented that. We posted signs in the area letting folks know where that camping boundary is. And we put that on our website. We've had numerous contacts by our law enforcement for education, letting folks know about the camping closure. We've had really good feedback on that from members of the public who are very pleased to see that that area right along the boundary of the homes is now clear of camping. The camping is still occurring where it is appropriate, so that's good to see, and we've just gotten really good feedback on that, so I'm pleased to talk about that as well. And then lastly, I just wanted to talk about our Nevada Resource Management Plan revision. This is a project I think you might have been updated on quite some time ago, and then we didn't have any updates for a while, but we do have updates now. As you may or may not know, the BLM district offices have many resource management plans that are out of date. Several are many, many decades old and need updating. And we are now working on an effort to do a revision to those resource management plans through one environmental impact statement. This is a new approach that BLM hasn't taken before, so it'll be something new, but it is an opportunity for the public to weigh in on what they would like to see in the new resource management plans. This effort is being led out of our Nevada State Office. However, I did ask for an update, and they let me know that starting next month, there will be a stakeholder situation assessment to better understand and incorporate stakeholders' values, interests, and uses for public lands. And so I think you'll be seeing some information soon, inviting you to comment on what you might want to see in those resource management plans. So that's all of my updates today. I'm happy to take any questions.
Commissioners, questions? Ms. Dow? Wow, okay, I'm surprised. Anyways, I have a couple of questions. Is this the primary location for sending field directors to retire? Because it seems like we go through a field director like once a year, and it's their final year in the service. So just an observation. I hope that's not the case. So anyways, and I know that the hottest potato probably that you're dealing with in our county is probably the Painted Rock mine. And you mentioned a 30-day public comment period. Is there any opportunity for the public to comment in person in that regard? Are you going to have an in-person meeting, or is that strictly online or through the mail?
So the Bureau of Indian Affairs is leading that effort, but they did indicate to us that they do intend on having a virtual public meeting. I don't know whether or not they'll allow public comment at that meeting. Those are, sometimes we have a public meeting, but without a court reporter, we can't take actual public comment. We can listen, we can have dialogue. I don't know if they intend on having a court reporter and taking public comment, but they do intend on having a virtual public meeting. Last update we received from them.
I don't understand the 30-day comment period. If it doesn't allow public comment, it doesn't seem like it's...
I'm sorry. Yeah, let me clarify. During that 30-day comment period, absolutely comments can be submitted in writing. At a public meeting, to take verbal comments would require a court reporter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know there's some folks, especially in this audience, Mr. Jackson here is certainly, that's a very hot topic out in the Johnson Lane area. So I would encourage Mr. Jackson to be in touch with Mrs. Dow in that regard and BIA. So I know you will. So, and you said there was, did I hear it right? 1,700 abandoned mines in
70.
Oh, 70.
Yeah.
Okay. My hearing aid didn't catch that, so.
I was speaking
700
really
still
quick.
seems, 700 still seems like an enormous amount of abandoned mines, even in Douglas County.
Just 70, under
Oh,
100.
70,
Yep,
70.
yep,
Oh,
seven-
my
70,
hearing aid is
yep,
not working
yeah.
again, so.
Which
okay,
is still
70,
actually
but
a
that's
lot.
still a high number,
It
okay?
is.
So,
It is.
okay.
Yeah, this will be an important project to
Okay.
have completed because, of course, as most people know, those provide a lot of safety hazards for the public who recreate out on public land. So this is a good project to partner with them on.
Okay, and we appreciate your efforts in the Van Sickle area as well, so thank you. Anyways, you've kept true to your promise to come before us every quarter, and so we enjoy that, and it's helpful for our public to understand where we're going also, so thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you for your time
Any other
today.
comments, Commissioners? Commissioner Noah?
With regard to the public comment written, will that be read into the record of that meeting?
I'm sorry?
The public comment that will be submitted during that 30-day period, will those comments be entered into the procedures? Or
Absolutely.
process?
Right. Yes, that's correct. Any public comments that we received that we will receive are part of the public record and will be considered when we then write the final environmental assessment.
Thank you. And now, do you, also, I guess my question is, do you expect a new person to be interviewed to take over this field position, or do you, are you hiring from within and promoting from within, or how's the process in that regard?
For the district manager position, I am not the hiring official for that. I believe that the announcement was provided outside of the agency and within the agency. So in theory, there could be any number of people who might be interviewed, but I'm not privy to that information.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. No other comments? We will move right along, and thank you once again for your attendance.
Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you next quarter.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that was a presentation-only item. We'll go into item number 4 now for possible action. Discussion on the appointment of 2 members to the Douglas County Audit Committee for a term of 4 years for an expiration date of December 31st, 2025. And this is be presented by Patrick Cates. Mr. Cates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We advertised for these vacancies. We received 5 applicants, and they're included in your packet, so you need to appoint 2 people out of those 5 applicants. And all of them are here, 4 of them are here, except for Mr. Olin. He was not able to attend either in Zoom or in person, but the other 4 applicants are here. Thank you.
So at this time, we will have, we'll allow each of the applicants that are in present or online to come before us and give us a short overview. We're going to ask you to try to limit that to 3 minutes each, if you would, please. If you don't need to take that amount of time, please don't. And then we'll allow the commissioners to ask the individual questions of those individuals. And then we'll come back to the, then we'll go to public comment, both in chambers and online, and we'll come back to the board for a decision. So at this time, let's see if I can get it in, I don't know if I can get it in alphabetical order. Ms. Rankin, I guess, is the first one up.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Teresa Rankin. I go by Terry. I'm currently serving on your audit committee, and so I'm asking for reappointment, which is in the structure for the committee. So let me give you a brief background, because some of you have changed since I originally applied, and then just tell you how the committee's working. Maybe that would help you out too. So I have been a state of Nevada employee. I'm presently retired. I started out after a private practice of law. I am a lawyer. I went to the legislature and was a bill drafter. Then I went to the insurance division and worked there for 12 years under 4 other commissioners, and I became the commissioner of insurance. When I left that agency, I had some family matters to take care of. Then I came back and worked for the state as an appeals officer in the Department of Administration, which is like a hearing officer for workers' compensation and other issues. During that time, I already had an insurance designation, Chartered Property Casualty Underwriter, which is like a master's in insurance. I went up to the Judicial College while I was a hearing officer, appeals officer, and got a certificate in administrative law and a master's in judicial studies. When I retired from the state, I've been doing volunteer work. I've served now, I think this is the 6th interim session of the legislature. I am a non-legislative member on the Sunset Subcommittee of the Legislative Commission. And what that means is they have meetings to review whether boards, commissions, and committees should be continued, consolidated, amendment, eliminated, whatever. And we're working through those now, and then they do a report to the legislature with amendments. So this is the 6th interim session that I've served on. I'm also vice chair of the Nevada Judicial Historical Society, which is a group that does oral histories for judges and plaques on courthouses like you get here and some other issues. I'm also on the board of the Nevada Insurance Education Foundation. And so we give grants to students on insurance. Briefly, your audit committee is working very well. They've worked with Terry Willoughby very closely and your county commissioner, and I think they're progressing very well with the things the committee has identified. So fortunately, you haven't had another embezzlement, so we're in good shape. If you have any questions, let me know.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Rankin? No? Not at this time? Okay. Thank you. At this time, I hope I'm going to get this name right. Sales? Am I correct in that? Yes. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you all for having me. I'm Jessica Sales. I am a 21-year Nevada resident. I moved here from Hawaii in 2001 to attend college at UNLV. I have my bachelor's and my master's degree in accounting, and I am currently the managing partner of Holdsworth Russo & Company. We are a 25-person CPA firm with locations in Southern Nevada, Northern Nevada, and Colorado. My specialty in public accounting is in not-for-profit and governmental agencies. I hold my American Institute of Certified Public Accountant certificate in internal controls. I also hold my not-for-profit certificate and complete 24 hours per year of continuing education specifically related to government entities and single audits. I have taught governmental and nonprofit accounting at UNLV. And I also am on the board of directors for the Northern Nevada chapter of the Nevada Society of CPAs. And I am a board member of the Trauma Intervention Program of Southern Nevada that provides a liaison between direct responders and victims of crimes. I started a nonprofit organization a few years ago that provides scholarships to accounting students at UNLV and UNR, and we've been able to fundraise and provide scholarships to accounting students who are otherwise unable to obtain funding through financial aid or through other programs in excess of $200,000. So a really great program there. I am also a mother of two. My children are right down the street at Allie and Friends, and my son will start kindergarten at Pinion Hills Elementary School. And I believe firmly in being an advocate for the community that I serve. And so when the opportunity arose to apply for this position, I felt that my background in governmental accounting, in public accounting, and my desire for community service were well aligned for the position. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions? Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I know I'm probably going to butcher this name, but I'll try it anyways. Ms. Schuerman. How was that? Close, okay.
My name is Martha Scheuerman. I moved to the area. I lived in Reno for 20 years and moved to Garnerville 3 years ago. So I have experience of internal audit for 15 years for a public company in Reno, and they have international subsidiaries. So I've been involved in internal controls and testing them, and I'm also a fraud auditor. certified. And also that requires continuing education at this point. So I would like to help or in any way we can to the county, basically. But you can see my resume. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Okay, thank you. Oh, Commissioner Bryce.
I see on your resume that you're a certified fraud investigator.
Yes.
Is that through a financial institution?
What was that?
Is that through a financial institution?
No, that's a certificate that you get through the Association of Our Auditors, which requires a lot of training and hours of training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See no other questions. And Mr. Owen's not with us. And Mr. Summers, do you wish to address us?
Good morning. My name is Mike Summers. Obtained my CPA license in the state of Nevada, state of California back in 1976 for 20 years. Practiced publicly and providing audit support and auditing for both private and public. During that period of time, I was assisting with the Nevada Gaming Control Board in developing the initial system of internal controls that's followed throughout the gaming industry. The last 20 years, after leaving public accounting practice, I went private with a company that we generated up to $400 million a year. Worked directly with, obviously, independent auditors and also with audit committees, both domestic and international. I believe that I can provide both the combination of the need for understanding an audit committee within a governmental and also with business concepts. The audit committee, I think, is tantamount upon understanding what the process is to protect the county and of their assets, both from looking at and working with the external auditors and issuing their opinion on the financial reports, not the financial report itself, but also with the issuing of their governance reports, and working closely with the accounting and management of within the county to understand, develop, and continuation of following systems of internal controls and protection of assets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. At this time, is there any questions by the commissioners? Sensing none, thank you. At this time, then, we'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment here in chambers? Mr. Maxwell.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is David Maxwell, Chairman of the Audit Committee. And the 5 applicants, I've read all their applications and very impressed with the quality of people we have applying. And I just wanted to have my recommendation on what would help the county best of all the applicants. And I think Terry is probably one of the most qualified individuals and been with the audit committee now for 5 or 6 years. I would recommend her, and also Martha Shraverman, who comes with a lot of audit experience and fraud research, and those are my inputs to the selection process, and I appreciate the opportunity to comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. When you mention Teresa, that's Ms. Rankin, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure that we understand who we're talking about. So, okay. Any additional public comment? Seeing no additional public comment, Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no public comment online.
Okay, so at this time, I'll bring it back to the board for further comment and a motion. So my observation also compared to Mr. Maxwell is that I don't think we can make a bad choice here. So anyways, commissioners.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Nosat?
I've taken plenty of time to look over each of these applications, and I'm just overwhelmed with the amount of knowledge and experience involved in all 5 applicants. But I'm going to agree with the chair of the audit committee and recommend Teresa Rankin and Martha Scheuerman. That's it.
Mr. Turkanian, any thoughts? No? Mr. Ingles?
In any organization, fraud is always a problem. And of course, we had Tiregate here, and before that, there was another fraud that was conducted. And it's always something that is going on, and somebody who's experienced in that is invaluable. And I would highly recommend Teresa Rankin, because she's been on the audit committee. She's familiar with all the procedures with the finance department, with the finance director, and Martha, because of that fraud experience. That is invaluable. I think the county could use that. Thank you.
Commissioner Rice, any comments?
Yes, sir. I'm glad to see that we finally agree on something. One of my daughters is a certified fraud investigator with a credit union, so I understand what it takes to become a certified fraud investigator. And a lot of people think that our audit committee is someone who just looks at our books and makes sure that the audit concurs or conforms with the official audit. And as I understand it, the purpose of this committee is to look for internal theft and fraud, and which is a different skill set, in my opinion. And I hate to fire somebody who's doing a good job, so I concur that Ms. Rankin should be here, as well as, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. Well, I'll try. Schumann? I'm close. I'm not close. Anyway, those two are my recommendations also.
Okay. So it appears that we have somewhat of a consensus here, so I will entertain a motion to, did we, I thought we heard from Mr.
We already did that.
We already did public comment. Mr. Commissioner Noasad?
Yes, I would like to place into nomination the names of, let me get it right, Terry Rankin, that's easy, and Martha Scheuerman to replace, to election to the audit committee.
Okay, so I have a nomination of Martha Scheuerman, I'll try that, and Teresa Rankin as the two new members, or the two members of the Douglas County Audit Committee for a 4-year term, expiration date December 31st, 2025. Any further discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Did I mention who seconded that? I don't know that I did. Commissioner Noasad was the motion, and then Commissioner Ingles, I believe, was the second on that. Okay, I wasn't sure. So, okay, well, congratulations, and thank you all once again for applying. Once again, we could not have made a mistake here with the qualifications of the 5, so we appreciate your interest in serving, and perhaps you can look at other opportunities within our county as well. Mr. Summers already serves on our East Fork Board of Trustees, right? So thank you for that. And thank you for your attendance, Mr. Maxwell, the chairman of that committee. So, so that the public understands why we're doing this in April versus January, when we normally make our selections. Mr. Cates, could you can you remind us of why we're making these selections here in April versus when we normally make all of our other board recommendations. I think it has to do with the bylaws of the audit committee and when they were formed, if I'm not mistaken, but I was sorry to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I know we discussed that the other day. My brain just went blank, but yeah, it was based on when it was created. And we want to set this up so they're occurring at the same time as all the other boards and commissions. So as commissioners, as the board members' terms expire, they'll be, the following term will align with all the other boards that you guys appoint to.
Okay, and that's why it's December 31st of 2025, so that it'll become in alignment with all the others. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll go into item number 5, presentation only. Presentation on the operations of the Minden Tahoe Airport regarding airport usage, capital projects, the aviation roundup, and community programs, being presented by Mr. Monak and Ms. Thompson.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for your time today. I'll first start with the report that I'm sure that Commissioner Ingalls was going to ask me for anyway. Fuel prices, sir. In case you needed to put some high-octane stuff in that hot rod Lincoln. $6.95 if you pump it yourself, and $7.45 if you want a truck to come to you. And our presentation starts in page 489 of your books. So this is the state of the airport, and that'd be the Great Minden Tahoe Airport. Okay. So it's interesting as we look at the numbers, which when we talk to folks and do presentations around the community, folks are often surprised. And I take that as a good thing because as we've grown over the past decade, the fact that we've grown and nobody really noticed, I take as success. So the busiest airports in the state, and I'm sorry, I've got to call it McCarran, I can't use that other name. Working on it, but just can't get it out. And then, of course, North Las Vegas. And then Boulder City, in the recent years, has started quite a massive tourism of helicopters. So their numbers have jumped considerably. In fact, they've jumped ahead of Reno Tahoe. And then there's us. So I think we're doing pretty well. And then when it comes to the commercial operators on the field, we have 24 businesses on the field that offer flight training, glider rides, glider flight training, aircraft maintenance, avionics work, and that shop happens to be so busy, I understand they can't take any more work until after November, that shop's so busy. And then, of course, we have the dispatch center and the helicopter fire support, which we're actually working to try to bring in additional based firefighting efforts. I will keep you posted on that. Our based aircraft population is right now about 400. So then how's that break down? The county owns 80 individual storage hangars that are full. There's 202 privately built hangars on the field, and of that 202, those range in size from small 1,800 square foot hangars to 5,000 square foot hangars to 10,000 square foot hangars and 20,000 square foot hangars. Obviously, those larger hangars hold multiple aircraft in them. Everyone with our weather, with wind, you may have noticed that the last couple days, likes to be inside if they can. We have 74 active land leases on the airport, people that are leasing land from the county to do their business or to store their aircraft. For the airport hangars, county-owned hangars, we have a waiting list of 73, which we constantly review and purge. You can't just walk in and say, put me on the list. We do charge a fee for that. That's non-refundable, that can be applied to your rent once you receive a hangar. The reason we do that is because there are times when pilots who tend to be a little bit type A personality, perhaps, will sign up for a mini hangar waiting list, and then you have a number that's inaccurate. So we feel this number is quite real. Then there's another group of people that are waiting for more private hangars to be built. We'll be bringing some of that to you next month. And that's another 35. So we definitely have interest in your airport. Now that picture that you have, go back to that picture once. That picture that you have there, that's the Perlin glider. That glider's already gone to almost 77,000 feet in altitude, setting all kinds of records. Of course, it's based at the Great Minden Tahoe Airport. We're getting a lot of international notoriety. The big sponsor for that aircraft is Airbus, and now they're doing hydrogen testing for aircraft. So instead of using high-octane fuel, they're talking about using hydrogen as an alternate fuel source. Not for the glider, for the tow plane.
All right, Frank Monak, Assistant Airport Manager for the record. So last year, the airport went ahead and purchased some pretty cool analytics software. Prior to that, we would rely heavily on state and federal surveys and other means of counting aircraft. So now the airport itself can track our own usage. And the first piece of the software that we purchased was a guard system. And what that does is it listens to our radio frequency. And every time pilots key up the radio to come in and land and depart, it counts as they take off or a landing. And so these are, over the last 6 months or so, the reports of that. And what I've tried to do, just to bring kind of awareness to the community, is at the end of every month, try to kind of give a month-end review and post the numbers so people can kind of see what the busy days were, the busy hours, and how many people are using our airport. So that's been counting. Unfortunately, in December, I lost power and didn't realize the system went down. So that's why the December numbers are so low. But everything else is very accurate. And then this last month, I was contacted by NDOT and Nevada State Aviation. And we are now, I just installed the Motion Pro analytics software, which actually tracks the ADS-B signal, which comes off the transponder. So not only do we have more accurate numbers, but I can also look and see how many people are using which runway at what times, where they're flying, how low they're flying, and who they are. So it's a neat piece of equipment to have at the airport, and I look forward to issuing more reports to you guys.
So now you know Frank's the smart guy at the airport. So we've been working on a number of things. One of the most recent things I will show you here. The first item there, Mr. Erb will be talking about in your next item on your agenda, which will be the repair of Airport Road, which I know is important to Commissioner Ingalls. Then the long-term parking lot, if you see those posts with the chain there in that photograph, one of the things that we looked at this year was as you go in Airport Road, this lot there had historically been used for some dry camping. We found that was not the best use of the land, and it also was very unattractive for people as they drove in the airport. And as often happens with things like that, people were being a little abusive, not as clean as we would like them to be, and maybe some activities that we didn't appreciate. So we've now designated that for event parking and long-term parking as we go forward. And it looks much better with the job the staff did with the posting and the change. Next time you're out there, you'll notice much better. We've also taken a very aggressive action this year. If you folks have noticed that somehow in a drought with your own properties that you have, the noxious weeds seem to thrive. I don't know if it's because the other plants don't do well and they get more room, but they really do well in a drought. So we've really gotten aggressive as the weather straightens up this year and trying to keep those under control and eliminate those as best we can. We certainly encourage any of you that like to come and tour and see what we're doing along those lines, please do. Also, when we were installing the post and doing the change to the parking lot, we hear what you said about water. We wanted to do our part on that, so we've gone to some zero-scape on several areas where we've eliminated sprinkler systems, and we will no longer be using that water. So we're trying to do our part for water conservation. Okay. And then the capital projects, which are, of course, critically important as we go forward. Wanted to do just a quick review of the previous 5 years and the projects that were done. And I won't go into these individually unless you all have questions. But in the last 5 years, we did over almost $9 million in projects at the airport. And again, we do those projects without asking you for any funds whatsoever. With the revenue earned on the airport, we use that for the matching grant. And then In recent years, with what happened with the way the government was handing out money, some of those projects didn't even require a match. The government 100% funded those, which is fine with me. So in that last 5 years, there was $16 million. So then what we're looking at for this year, we've been working to get Taxiway Zulu completed. This is the last piece of it. While I was sitting here this morning, I did get a text from our airport engineering outfit and found out these are the engineering estimates, the grant funding, which now we find out that it looks like so many of the asphalt projects, I'm sure you're going to hear about them throughout the county, but for that first project, it's going to be over $3 million now. In fact, $3,221,000. It looks like it's going to be the low bid for that project. So obviously, we'll be going back to the FAA for additional funding on that. Then the second item, which is snow removal equipment, includes a tractor. The current tractor that we have is 40 years old. We're still keeping it running pretty good, but we really need some additional help with snow removal and general maintenance on the airport, and that is an eligible item that we can get funded through the FAA. Then the last item on there, at one point we had looked at perhaps doing a new airport terminal on the east side of the airport. We think a better use of funds and frankly a better optic is to just improve the building we're in. It is a 1950s building. It is not ADA accessible. The wiring and the plumbing is also from the 50s. We're keeping it patched and working. We actually somehow had a frog got inside of one of the toilets somehow. We don't know quite how the frog got there, but then we found a break in the line that we had to fix. So we definitely need to do some upgrade there, and we have applied for a grant to cover those costs. As you go forward, in the next few years, here's a list of some of the projects we're doing. Just a simple factoid is on the air side of the airport, just the taxiways, runways, we have 3,340,858 square feet of asphalt that we maintain, and it takes money to do so. Fortunately, that is a good fundable item through the FAA, and we'll keep that in good order. We've done all the asphalt now on the airport, and we're circling back and doing upgrades. And then again, going out, you'll see here again, we're talking about more asphalt as we go forward, pavement, pavement, pavement. We are also upgrading the lights on the one system, so we have good night service. So recently, in fact, this was just released about a month ago, the state of Nevada did a study of the rural airports to find out how important they were to the state. The numbers they came back with, these are their numbers, not ours, that they came back with for the Great Minden Tahoe Airport, 376 people are employed at various jobs with those businesses I talked about earlier. The direct labor income from that, as you can see, is quite a number. The total outputs, our total economic impact on Douglas County is over $56 million. And if today, for some reason, the airport had to be replaced, it'd be over $104 million to do so. So the value of the aircraft, you see the number there, that's the average value. That's the gliders on the airport, average value. The leaseholds, business accounts average, and then that last number I'm sure is going to be important to you. The annual tax revenue at this point, and this is before we build any more hangars, have individual bed hangars, our annual tax income for this past year was $413,303.27, and we're glad to contribute that to the general fund.
All right. Well, Bobby and I both agree that being involved in the community and promoting aviation is vital and very important. So one of the things that I have started to campaign on, and I've reached out to the Douglas High School, is currently right now through the Sports Aviation Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization on the airport, they invite the sixth graders out to the airport for a field trip, and they learn about just kind of airplanes and aviation in general. But I feel like we missed the mark in re-engaging with those students before they start making career and life choices, filling out applications for colleges and whatnot. So I approached the high school and asked if we could do a ground school out there, pretty much take the airport to the high school, bring a couple of flight instructors out there and put on a program. And that was very well received. I'm still working with the principal and staff out there to get that up and going. And it was so successful that we decided to also reach out to Western Nevada College, and they have signed on board as well. And I'm working with them to offer a dual enrollment option. So the students that go through the course and complete it are also eligible to receive college credits that way. So hopefully we'll entice them to show up, learn, and some background about me. I flew drones in the Army. That's how I got started in aviation. And what really kicked that off was sitting in a ground school and learning about how these things fly. And that just kind of lit the fire for me. So I want to offer that opportunity to the students here in the county. And then also out on the airport, we have a Build a Plane youth program, which is sponsored by the Sports Aviation Foundation. And what they do is they take, what's the age range, Bobby?
The juniors and seniors.
Juniors and seniors. So they take them out, and they have a kit plane that they're building. So they show up every Saturday, I think right now from noon and for a couple hours, and they are building an aircraft in one of our hangars. The Civil Air Patrol have a cadet program. I believe it's from age 12 all the way to 18, similar to kind of like a Boy Scout program, just with a more aeronautical focus. And then we have the Youth Aviation Adventure, which is what I spoke about earlier when the sixth graders come out and spend the day with us. The Douglas High School Career Day, I attended that, I believe it was last month or the month prior, where about 900 students came through, and I was able to discuss just different careers in aviation, all the way from pilot to mechanic, dispatcher, flight attendant, and even airport management. And then the big one that we love to partner with the FAA and provide safety seminars. We have those every few months down at the Carson Valley Inn. This last one, we had about 50 people in attendance, and 150 people attend online because I live streamed them. And the FAA has been so appreciative of what we do. They gave us a certificate of appreciation for the airport for sponsoring that because no other airports in this region partner with them like we do.
On the Build a Plane program, go back that once. On the Build a Plane program, they're getting ready to actually mount the wings on the aircraft, so they are making progress. The plan is that once that aircraft is complete, they will sell it and purchase another kit and just keep on going. And then with the Civil Air Patrol Cadet Program, we've been so successful in working with them during the Aviation Roundup. We're going to have cadets here from 4 cities that will do some volunteer work on the grounds, and they're going to have some special moments with the Blue Angels. It's going to be quite nice for, I think, for the children. So then we also like to continue our community involvement beyond the youth of the neighborhood. We are very active in participating with Ms. Granahan with the Economic Vitality Program. We're very active with the Chamber of Commerce, the Visitors Authority, the Business Council of Douglas County, and then I'm also a member of the Community Center Foundation Board. So we like to participate and give back to our community. We think it's the right thing to do, and we think those are important endeavors. So we've got some events coming up that you might be interested in. In May, we have the B-29 Dock, named Doc, that'll be here, that'll be offering tours and also flights if you're so interested to do so. That's a recently restored aircraft. There's only 2 B-29s flying in the world today, so that's going to be quite an event to have here. On May the 21st, the Sports Aviation Foundation is having an open house where they will have a number of aircraft on display for people to come and see. Again, it's to encourage that the airport's a fun place to be and everyone's welcome to be there. That next item on there, we're learning more about this every day. It's a military operation. We're going to have some C-17s and C-130s come in, and they're going to set up an operation on the airport. They've got a whole physical structure that's going to be set up, and it's important for all of you to know because you may get some phone calls. This military operation, which is a statewide operation, not just from here, is going to involve activities from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. Now, we're certainly going to encourage them to fly out quietly because they're using helicopters out of Minden. So hopefully they're going to adhere to the needs and we won't get too many phone calls. But I'm sure some people are going to notice that nighttime activity. So we certainly wanted you to be aware of it. As we learn more about the actions of that event next week, we'll certainly inform you because there's going to be heavy activity on the airport all night long. Of course, there's no homes directly next to the airport, so that may go unnoticed, but all the helicopter operations may get a little notice. And then, of course, that other thing we do on October 1st and 2nd, which is the Aviation Roundup. So we have quite a lineup for that show, of course, headlined by the U.S. Navy Blue Angels. Bill Stein, who's quite a performer, has a beautiful aircraft. The shooters, which are actually guys that spent at least 10 years with the Army Golden Knights that now have their own paratrooper group. Greg Kuntz and the Alabama Boys. Now that's the guy that lands on top of a truck. If you haven't seen him do that, I hear from people say, oh, it's great, I can see it from my backyard. Nah, you can't. There's so many things that happen right there on the airport that you can't see from your backyard. Kirby Chambliss, who is one of the main pilots for the Red Bull group, will be flying as well. Matt Youngcomb flies a Beech 18, which is a 50-year-old airplane that has amazing aerobatics in it. The mini jet team, when you see that, you're going to think, how can that guy get in that? That's a toy. I mean, it's like he puts it on instead of gets into it, but it's clearly something to watch. And then, of course, since we are a major glider operation, we will have a glider doing aerobatics. This glider happens to have its own jet engine. Oxymoron? I don't know. And then the Erickson Aircraft Collection, a B-17 and a Mustang. So that's what it's looked like before, and we certainly hope to see all of you there, and we'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Ms. Monak. Questions from the board?
Not a question, more of a statement. I'm a 20-year Navy aviation type, and what you offer youngsters here, I wish was available when I was 15. Otherwise, I might have gone in a different direction than the Navy.
Well, sir, I can tell you that I was sucked in because someone decided to build an airport next to the farm I grew up on as a child. And they were so generous that they let me scrub the bellies of those aircraft.
Commissioner Ingles.
I'll direct this to Frank because he's a drone pilot. And if I ask you a question that's classified, you don't
I will do my best to answer.
Where's the U.S. military have their drone center?
Are you speaking in regards to training or where the units are specifically?
Whatever you can give us.
No, the U.S. Army's main training facility is Fort Huachuca in Arizona. Down there, it's about a 6 months to a year program, depending on what platform you fly. And unfortunately, the Army doesn't arm their drones. That's the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Air Force, and they're the ones that usually make the CNN headline news. But yeah, the main difference between the Army versus the Air Force is that in the Air Force, the commissioned officers fly, in the Army, the enlisted fly. But with that said, we do have the ability to laser designate targets and stuff like that. Right now, right when I left the Army, it was they're moving in what they call a MUM-O, a manned-unmanned operation, where we would partner with Apaches and work side by side with them. So they're pretty much the weapons platform, and we were just the guy to deliver it.
Back when I was in, You didn't have any of these things.
They're fun toys.
You'd have a jungle with a triple canopy and nobody, they'd get lost. And we used to have to fire Willie Peter just to kind of give them a reference point so that we didn't kill our own people, because friendly fire is not friendly. But that's interesting. Thank you.
Of course.
And I see no reason to have something that flies that doesn't have a weapon on it, but that's just me.
One more question.
Sure.
With respect to the airport itself, are we going to get a tower?
Well, sir, back in 1982, there was an ordinance done, a local ordinance done, and back in those days, the airport wasn't doing well. There were number of issues. The community didn't think very highly of the airport. And one of the restrictions there was if that ever moved forward, that we would have to take that to a vote of the people. One of the reasons we're working very hard to get correct analytics on the airport is so that we can present those to the FAA, because the only way we would move forward, even with requesting a vote, would be if our analytics qualified us for what's called the Contract Tower Association, which means that the FAA would totally fund the construction of a tower and would fund the staff that mans that tower, so it'd be zero cost to the community or to the airport either. So we're gathering those analytics, and then if the analytics prove it, then we need to talk to the community, because the community, unfortunately, a lot of folks, and we hear it to this day, think that a tower means airlines, which a tower means safety. And that's the only reason we would want to have a tower, is for safety. Airlines, no. And we would be happy if this ever went to a vote to include in that language for the vote that we would guarantee no airlines would be involved.
I wish we still had the P2s out there.
Us too.
Thank you. Mr. Turkey?
Just one
Mr.
quick thing.
Turkey?
You guys do some, as Commissioner Orsat said, great things for the young kids in the community. My son has been bugging me all the time now, saying how he wants to get involved in some of the things you're offering. It really is wonderful. So thank you, guys.
It's truly our pleasure.
So I only had one question, because most of the questions I was going to ask you included in your presentation. So I only have one question, but a couple of observations. Number one, the private hangars that are going to be built, you indicated, are those is that the expansion of the west side or east side, or is that involved on the west side, continued expansion of that side?
The lease that we're bringing to you next month is for 9 private hangars on the west side.
On the west side, okay, thank
Now,
you.
we also, in order to perhaps expedite that east side development, the county manager had pointed out that there's a number of grants available besides FAA, so we quickly got to work on that, and we found actually a program that we applied for that was due last week for $9.5 million through another grant process for all the pavement that's needed to help expedite things on the east side.
Okay, thank you. So the observations I'll make, Commissioner Noasad indicated the build-a-plane program and whether or not, I just want to make an observation that I took metal shop in school and wood shop in school, and this is probably not a program I would have participated in, because everything I built seemed to turn into an ashtray. So probably not a good idea for me to participate in that program. But also, you didn't indicate a date on the C-130s and C-17s, so I would ask you to please inform us of those dates so that we can ensure that our cell phones are turned off during that period of time, from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. I rarely turn them on, but it would irritate my wife to know.
My apologies. The first aircraft's supposed to land next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Okay, guys, you probably want to turn your cell phones off. Okay, thank you. I have no other comments. Anyways, Ms. Thompson, Mr. Monak, right? So yep. Thank you very much for your presentations.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. What's that? No, actually not. That's Mr. Erb is on. Okay. I think what we're going to probably try to do here, we have 2 items left. I don't know that this one's going to take necessarily a long period of time. And I'd rather not break in the middle of perhaps getting into item number 7. So I think if the commissioners don't mind, I think we're just going to try to power through this and not take a lunch break. Okay? Thank you. So item number 6 for possible action, discussion to award a $774,007 contract to Sierra Nevada Construction Incorporated for the Airport Road and Parking Lot Reconstruction Project as previously budgeted in the fiscal year 2021-22, and authorize the county manager to approve change orders up to 10% of the contract amount and adopt resolution 2022-R-048, augmenting the budget for the Airport Road and Parking Lot Reconstruction Project 22A-02, presented by our Roads Division Manager, I guess it is Mr. Erb. Right?
Thank you. For the record, John Erb, Douglas County Public Works, the Transportation Engineering Manager. Bobby and Frank are going to be hard to follow on this, but their presentation did touch on this, and they, as far as capital improvements for the airport. This project is in your packet on page 507 through 567. The project started a year ago at the request of Commissioner Ingalls during the CIP process of the budget. We were able to get it in the CIP. We went out for on-call lists for the engineering. The geotech engineering was done in, I believe it was early or late last year. From that, we were able to develop a design scope. What the geotech does is they go out there and investigate the asphalt, the base, and the subgrade. We did find out that the parking lot has really poor or lack of base and a pretty poor subgrade. So the design escalated into some need for base and geotechnical fabric to be put down. So that is one element of why the resolution is in here for the increase of costs. After the design was finished, we advertised in March 13th for a 4-week period and opened bids on April 6th. We had 3 qualified bidders. Granite Construction was the high bid at $1,059,059. Qualcomm Construction came in at $799,258.70, and the low bid was Sierra Nevada Construction at $774,007. Sierra Nevada Construction met all the bidding requirements. They had their all their required materials in there as far as bid bonds are concerned. And with that, I recommend an award of the contract to Sierra Nevada Construction. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Erb. Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Erb? Okay, then we'll go to public comment. This is an action item. Are there any public comments here in chambers? Sensing none, Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. I do have someone who has indicated they would like to provide public comment. Mr. Slade, do you have public comment on this item?
I do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name and we'll start your time for the record.
Jim Slade. I'm a little confused. I don't really understand quite how airport and airport projects are financed. So I'm just hoping that Mr. Erb or someone can explain this to me more fully. I know that the airport is somewhat autonomous, but I was pleased to see in Ms. Thompson's presentation that they contributed 413,000 and change to the general fund. So I don't have any particular concerns with the bid and the acceptance of that. I would just like a little clarification for my edification and that of the public, and perhaps some of the commissioners as well, as to how the funding for this type of thing, what type of funds does it come from? Is it repaid somehow by the airport operations itself, or does it come out of the general fund? Just if you could explain that a little more fully. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slade. Ms. Johnson, is there any other public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. There's no further public comment online at this time.
Thank you. We'll bring that back to the board at this time then and ask Mr. Erb to clarify that question, if you could please, in regards to the financing of the project.
John Erb for the record. That was a very good question, and I meant to bring that up during my earlier part. But this project is funded 100% from the airport, from their capital improvement funds.
Okay, so they're not requesting any additional funds out of the general fund?
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? Sensing no other questions, do we have a motion? Mr. Ingalls, would you like to offer a motion here? No?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to. I move that we award a $774,007 contract to Sierra Nevada Construction Incorporated for the airport road and parking lot reconstruction, and authorize the county manager to approve change orders up to 10% of the contract amount, and adopt resolution 2022-R-048, augmenting the project budget in the amount of $265,000.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Noasad to approve the contract with Sierra Nevada Construction as stated, and the approval of adopt resolution 2022-R-048, augmenting the budget for the airport road and parking lot reconstruction project 22A-02. Any further discussion? Sensing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Erb. There you go, Ms. Thompson, Mr. Nonak. Okay. So look forward to those improvements. It's approximately 1:45 and we haven't had a break yet. So I'm going to take a break until noon, 12 o'clock, to allow us time to use the facilities and take a little bit of stretch our legs, and then we'll return, at which point in time we'll go into item number 7 and 8, the last two items, and we will avoid taking a lunch break today. So thank you. The meeting is now in recess.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Okay, my computer tells me it's 12 o'clock. That's what time I said we were going to reconvene. So at this time, we'll go into item number 7 for possible action, discussion, and review of the performance of the county manager, Patrick Cates, based on the priorities, goals, and expectations set by the board, and the granting of a merit increase between 0 and 3% in accordance with the contract between Douglas County and Patrick Cates, presented by our HR Director, Ms. Lang.
Thank you very much, Chairman, members of the Commission. Wendy Lang, Human Resources, for the record. I am just going to introduce this item. This is the annual evaluation for your county manager, Patrick Cates, consistent with the employment contract between the county and Mr. Cates. The contract provides for an annual evaluation and a merit increase, which is consistent with the Douglas County policy for other employees. Currently, the merit increase range for other employees is 0 to 3%. I've attached the county policy on employee performance evaluations and merit increases to this packet for reference. And I've also included the employment contract between the county and Mr. Cates that outlines this process, in addition to that policy outlining the process and the tying of the performance to the merit increase. Mr. Cates has been noticed in accordance with NRS 241 that his character may be discussed in an open public meeting. I'm happy to answer any procedural questions, but with that, I'll hand it over to the board and Mr. Cates to discuss his performance this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lang. So at this time, we'll turn it over to Mr. Cates for a presentation. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Okay.
Before I get started on the presentation, I just wanted to open with thanking the chairman for bringing this forward. The last evaluation was June, so a little out of cycle. So it's now been about 10 months or so since that last evaluation. And again, I thank the chair for getting it back on cycle. The last evaluation that I had was an interesting experience, to say the least. It was a pretty frustrating experience for me. Some of the board members had some kind words about my performance, and at the end of the day, I was granted a 0 merit increase. And when a county employee gets rated at 0, that sort of indicates they're failing at their job. And I was extremely frustrated with that. There were also some statements made that I was the highest paid county manager in Northern Nevada. That absolutely is not true. The Carson City manager, I make just a little bit more than she does, Nancy Paulson. She's great and she's good at her job. I would point out that Carson City is a little bit different than Douglas County. They have an elected mayor that serves as their chief executive. So it's a little bit different. The Washoe County manager, which I would not presume to expect to be compensated at the same level as a Washoe County manager, but just for your reference, the Washoe County manager, in his evaluation, I think it was about 6 months or so ago, they gave him a 10% pay increase and a 5% bonus. He's now making something in the range of about $70,000 more than I make per year. Just for some context and to answer some things that I wasn't able to speak to in June of last year. When I went home that night, I was very angry. I thought that I had been treated poorly and disrespected, and I thought that my accomplishments were not properly addressed and compensated with a reasonable score. I contemplated tendering my resignation, and I decided not to do that. I even wrote a letter to Governor Sandoval asking if I could be of service to him at the University of Nevada. I never sent that letter. And I had to think a lot about it. But I believe in this county. I think I've done a lot of good for this county. I think I've provided good advice to this board. And I want to be there for my team and all the county employees. I think I brought a lot of stability to the county. And, you know, when I was a kid, my father signed me up for a boxing club, Reno Mighty Mites. And I wasn't that great at it, but I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. And I learned a really important lesson in that, as I did in high school sports. I played a little football. But I learned that there is honor in losing if you fought the good fight and gave it your all. And there is shame in just quitting. And I'm not a quitter. So I've continued on. I've continued to do my diligence and the best work that I can for this board and for the county employees and the community. And I intend to continue to do that. So with that, I'll go ahead and fire up my PowerPoint. Okay, I think everybody can see that now. Why isn't it shuffling? Oh, there we go. Okay, just to point out a couple of provisions of my contract with the county. It says the county, with input from the employee, agrees to adopt priorities, goals, and expectations for the employee in each year. That is prospective going forward. And then the employee's evaluation shall be based on priorities, goals, and expectations developed as provided above, which is retrospective. So the priorities that were set last year would be what you'd be evaluating me on this year. And that there's supposed to be a separate workshop to develop specific criteria for priorities. I don't think we ever got around to doing that, but I did lay out some priorities at the time of my evaluation, which I followed throughout the year to the best of my ability. These are some of the goals that I laid out last year. Administer American Recovery Plan Act funds, reevaluate the VHR program in 6 months. A little lawsuit that you're well aware of kind of interfered with that one a little bit. And to purchase property and design a new judicial building. And to update Title 20 and to work with the board on what areas of Title 20 they wanted to address. And to develop a plan to comply with new state laws regarding indigent defense services. Develop a plan to comply with the new state laws regarding 48-hour pretrial release. And work with the district court in 16 counties on a funding model and programming changes for China Spring. And to develop a working group with water purveyors on long-term water plans for Douglas County. And to review and update the county strategic plan. And to develop and execute an internal communications plan. So these were the goals that I lined out last year. So accomplishments from June, the time of my last evaluation, 2021, through April 2022. Create indigent defense program. So we established that program. We have an indigent defense coordinator. This board approved our plan, as did the state. We're still working through that process. As you know, we had some turnover in some of our attorneys. We're having some struggles there. The new state regulations are pretty onerous, and I think all the jurisdictions that we've talked to are struggling with that program a little bit, but we're working through it as best we can. 48-hour pretrial release, that also was a new law. We added resources for the DA's office and the judiciary as part of the FY 22-23 base budget that you reviewed a couple weeks ago. I worked with the DA, the board, and community development to settle the VHR lawsuit. There was a lot of negotiations back and forth and meetings, public meetings, and our arbitration with the judge, not arbitration, but a settlement agreement with the judge that we worked through with different commissioners participating at different times. And the lawsuit's been dismissed, so the board did a good job on that, and we can now move forward with that program without a federal lawsuit hanging over our heads. Water studies. I've worked with the U.S. Geological Survey and the stakeholders to develop scope and scenarios for their studies. That's ongoing. We've had a few meetings to kind of scope that out, and we should be bringing an update back to the board pretty soon of where that stands. I believe, if I remember right, they had 2 years to complete the study, so that's an ongoing effort. I will say I feel like I need to do more in working with the stakeholders, the other water purveyors, on a county plan that is required by statute. I don't remember the deadline off my top of my head, but it's a few years out when we have to do that. And I think the study is an important component to that. But I think I need to rev up that effort a little more in this next year. Technology improvements. New World Systems, that's our financial system. We took that to the cloud with the vendor hosting to improve the reliability of the system and take some burden off our IT staff. We did that successfully. We continue to have some struggles with New World's system, which I believe Terry Willoughby will be talking about next week during our CIP and ARPA funding considerations. We completed the data center project to move the data center from the courthouse basement, that was an audit finding, to the town of Minden. That's been completed. IT is in the process of moving equipment in there. We should have that completed and fully functional by the end of June. Microsoft 365 productivity project. We've made good progress on that. It was a little slow going at first. We were really caught by some of the labor market issues that we've seen throughout our economy. It was very hard to get our partners to have project managers come on and help us with that, but we finally sorted that out, have moved forward, have done all of our testing. Just this last week, they have rolled it out to all of the IT staff, and they're currently working, it'll probably take them another week or two, to set up everyone else to convert, and then we'll be going through a process of converting all the other employees. So I'm pretty confident that we're going to have that up and running within the next couple of months. Title 20 review. The board reviewed the growth management ordinance. I facilitated that board review, lots of internal meetings and discussions with various board members, and the result was no change to that ordinance. So that's another portion of Title 20 that we can check the box that the board has reviewed and updated. County policies, we've had numerous policies updates approved by the board in the last year. A lot of those are driven by audit findings as well as county needs. I think the most recent one was the volunteer policy that the board approved at, I think that was our last regular scheduled meeting. China Spring Youth Camp. I continue to work with the NACO working group, which includes the camp director, Judge Young, as well as the 16 counties that participate and fund the camp. We have made very good progress. We've made some proposed changes to camp governance. We're looking at a draft ordinance for this board to consider to make some changes that the group would like to see. That's not ready to come back to this board yet, but hopefully very soon, in the next month or two, we'll be bringing that forward. There has been a lot of changes in camp communication with the counties and some programmatic changes that all the counties, from what I can tell from the working group, are very happy with. We're now talking about the funding issues. I did send out through NACO to all the counties a request for funding for the next fiscal year to help reduce some of that reduction from the state, or funding cut from the state. I know several counties have indicated they were budgeting for that, including Lyon and Carson City. And then the next step will be working on any future changes to statute and how the camp is funded and what that model looks like. And we're just now forming a subgroup to work on that. I'm a member of that. I think our next meeting is, I believe, in about a week. Broadband access through Economic Vitality Program. We've created a broadband action team. This was a big personal priority for me that I pushed for. To really try to expand broadband availability throughout the county. They're making good progress. We're working closely with the State Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology. We've engaged with some providers, and we really want to be positioned to identify our priority projects for the county to expand broadband and be able to be in a position to leverage federal and state funds that are available through the infrastructure and ARPA bills to actually do some good. I've been involved in broadband, trying to expand that since gosh, I can't even remember how long ago that is when they set up the broadband task force at the state level many years ago. But there's never a lot of money to move that needle, and now there is. So I'm very optimistic over the course of the next year we'll see some movement and progress on that. The judicial building project. I personally advocated to build a new judicial building and to scrap the plan for just renovating JLEC for both the judiciary and the sheriff. So this board budgeted for the purchase of land and some money for design. I've worked with a landowner on a possible site for a new building, and we'll be coming to the board for consideration of that next month. Before I mention goals, there's one other thing I wanted to mention that I didn't have listed on accomplishments. In the last year, my management team, that is assistant county manager, the directors that report to me, we haven't had any turnover in those leadership positions in the last year. And I chalk that up to good leadership. I think I have the respect of my management team and trust of my management team. And I think they appreciate the continuity. And I just think that speaks to leadership that nobody on that team has left in the last year. Not to say we probably won't have some retirements in the future, but we held steady in the last year. So goals for the next year. So May 2022 through April 2023, or however long my next evaluation is done. Strategic planning with the board. We didn't make any progress on that in the last year. I did not move that needle, and that's something we need to prioritize and work on. The airport, we've talked a lot about the airport today. You did approve the contract for the airport road and parking lot. I know that was a priority of Commissioner Engels, and I agreed with that, and we've worked hard to get that done. The Moss Adams report on the airport, that was part of their audit plan for the year, was to do an agency review of the airport. I have seen the draft of that. That is coming to the audit committee next week, and then it will be coming to the board. And I think there's a lot of useful insight about airport operations for this board to consider going forward. And I do still plan to bring a request for proposal forward for airport, for management of the airport, to be completed by the end of the calendar year. And, I've said before, I think ABS gives good service to the county, but they've had a really long-term contract. We're like 6-7 years into this contract, and it's never been out for bid in that time. And to me, that's way too long to not go out and test the market. So that's one of my priorities to achieve before the end of the calendar year. Roads, continue progress on Muller Parkway. Design for Vista Grande extension. That's to connect Vista Grande between Home Depot and Best Buy. That's dependent on the Forest Service. Where we have the right-of-way is on Forest Service land, and they're going through a disposal process to sell it. The last time I spoke to them, they expected that to be completed this year. So as soon as that's completed, we want to move forward with Vista Grande, and there is funding available in RDA 2. I'm sorry, RDA 1 that was dissolved, but that was one of the projects with leftover money in RDA 1. It was the biggest project that was left over, and so that's sitting there until such time as we can do that. We also have money set aside for Muller Parkway to meet the minimum requirements under the Park Development Agreement. So we continue to progress on that as well. Kale Drive project. That was listed as a priority in the Economic Vitality Plan. Megan Kelly with the Conservation District up there is the champion of that project. She's done great work. She has it is I want to say 90% design complete. She has done a great job of cobbling together funding sources. They're short a little over $1 million, and I'm working hard to secure funding for that so that construction could start in the summer of 2023. And I always remind people when I talk about this, it's not just about the road, it's drainage and amenities for the community. It's a very important project that is multifaceted. I think it's also really important to Barton Health now that they're going into the location of the Lakeside Inn. And an update to the transportation model. I know that's a big priority for John Erb. I think that's important. Our current transportation model is I can't remember how old it is, but it's quite old, needs to be updated. Our community's changed a lot, and we can't make good decisions about transportation and developments without a good update on that. Utilities, continue the capital improvement program for the water system. There's a lengthy list of projects that the board may remember when the current rates were set. Those were approved a couple of years ago to fund a host of water infrastructure projects. This was something that I was hoping we'd bring forward this fiscal year, but we haven't got there yet, and that's to implement new sewer rates. When the rate study was done, they studied water and sewer, and there was a decision by the board to implement one of the rates and hold off on the other, so it wasn't such sticker shock to ratepayers. So we want to bring that forward. There's needs in our sewer system as well, so I plan on bringing that forward in the next year. Community development, we need to continue our Title 20 updates, and I've proposed that we focus on the transfer of development rights, and this board did approve some funding to do a study on that aspect of Title 20. I think that's very important to preservation of open space, and we really need to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do, and we revamp that. And we want to continue to implement the new VHR regulations, refine and improve the program. This board did approve some additional staffing for that program recently, and we want to work with the VHR Advisory Board on future regulation changes for that. Public safety. I mentioned the purchase of land for a new judicial building in future county complex. That will be coming forward next month. And we are including in our CIP request funding for the design of that building. And I know Terry Willoughby will also be bringing forward soon some options to finance the construction of that project so we can make sure that we get that done. It's been a long-standing need, and it's a priority for me to see that through. We also need to work on the transition of the constable's office to Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and as part of that, the alternative sentencing program would come under the authority of the county manager's office. So that's effective at the end of this calendar year, so we got to continue to work through that and make sure that's smooth and everybody continues to get the services that they expect from those programs. Community services. This board has reviewed with the DA's office the issues around the opioid settlement agreements. We entered into that agreement with the state on how those settlement funds would be cost shared. The first settlement has come through. That was announced by the state attorney general, I don't know, a month or so ago. There will be more to come. These are just a few of the companies that are involved in these lawsuits. There will be multiple settlements. We will be getting a portion of that. I don't know exactly when or the exact amount, but we should be getting some of that money that the State Attorney General mentioned. I think there is a fantastic opportunity here for us to really enhance services. A lot of these funds are supposed to be used for things that are related to opioid addiction. So we're really talking about community services, some of their social services programs. It's an opportunity to enhance drug treatment, mental health services. The Sheriff's Office is a key player in that. The Sheriff's Office works very closely with social services, as well as our other community partners. Carson Valley Medical Center. We have a lot of nonprofits that do a lot of good work in that space. So there's going to be a real opportunity to expand those services on a scale we've probably never contemplated before. And it's important that we move forward with that in a thoughtful way, and hopefully we'll be having a lot more discussions with the board on that as that progresses forward. I do know that they are Brooke Addy, the Assistant Director for Community Services, she met with Dan and I last week, and she's going to form a stakeholder group to get that process started in anticipation of these funds. It's not just the funds we're getting, the funds that the state's getting. They want to grant out to counties. So how we tap into that, what that looks like, we got a lot of work to do on that in the next year. I want to see the update to the Trails Plan, which this board also approved some funding for in the tentative budget. And I want to continue to oversee the reorganization of staffing for community services so they can fully restore their services. They've had challenges keeping the hours for the community center due to staffing, as well as some of their child care programming. And you've seen some of that come piecemeal. Excuse me. And that will continue in the next fiscal year. We're also working to secure all the rights of way and work with NDOT for a bicycle connection from the Ranchos to Gardnerville. That's been planned for a long time. And I want to do everything we can to move that forward in the next year. I don't know if we'll get to construction, but we'd need to further along so we got more pieces of the puzzle put together, because I know that's a priority as well. Organizational sustainability and resiliency. We'll be implementing the 7% pay increase that this board approved. I applaud the board for doing that. A lot of work went into the study from Wendy Lang and Jennifer Davidson in particular. And I thank the board for understanding that need and approving that. So we'll be implementing that. I think that will help with recruitment and retention. We also need to conduct the class and compensation study, which the board also approved in the tentative budget funding for that. And we need to complete labor negotiations with DC SPA and SBU. Those are our two peace officer unions. And that's ongoing, as this board is aware. And we have to come to terms and enter into agreement effective July 1. So that's ongoing. Employee training and engagement. Ethics survey. We recently completed an ethics survey. I did talk in my last evaluation about how important that is, that we have a really systematic way of educating employees on ethics and how they make ethical decisions and how it applies to their day-to-day duties. The ethics survey has some very interesting results. We're kind of compiling that right now. We don't have anything ready for prime time yet because it was just recently completed. We are also working on an expanded ethics training. Jennifer Davidson has taken the lead on this. She's actually pursuing a master's degree where this is the subject that she is studying. So she's done a really great job with this. She's putting the pieces together on what that looks like, but we really want to have robust training because right now all we're doing is we have the video recording of when the executive director from the State Ethics Commission came to this board, and we recorded that and we asked people to watch it once a year. That barely scratches the surface, and it doesn't tell people to think critically about how ethics impacts their decision making and their job. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's very important just for credibility of the organization and public perception. And that's how we keep out of trouble. So it's very important. And we also want to implement our internal communications plan. I believe this board heard a presentation on what that plan would look like. Now we're working through the process of implementation. And I want to continue to improve and update our county policies and procedures. As I've said, you guys have seen a lot of them. Some of those had not been updated in many years. We need to keep working on that because that's also part of how employees know how to do their job. You can't function as an organization without clear processes for people to follow. Maybe you could if you're a very small operation, but an organization our size, we live and die by those policies and procedures. So that will continue into the next year. And we need to administer the county ARPA funds. The board will be considering that next week. We have a meeting scheduled for that. We received quite a few proposals that we'll be talking about. And then once you make some decisions about how to spend it, then obviously we have to oversee that and make sure they're all spent appropriately. And the last one I think is really important to look at in this next year is to leverage new grant opportunities to address county priorities. As you know, the feds have passed a series of laws which have made a lot of money available that never has been before. I tell people this all the time. I know that a lot of people have concerns about federal fiscal policy, as do I. But I don't control federal fiscal policy. But if there's federal funds out there and they can benefit our community, I want us to be placed to get them to address our needs. The state ARPA funds, they're going through a process of what those funds will be used for. There's going to be a lot of opportunities there. The state and federal infrastructure funding as well. The infrastructure bill was the biggest infrastructure bill they had passed in decades. And I want to make sure that we can tap into that to get some of our infrastructure needs taken care of. And we also really need to identify and add resources to manage all of this money. We need resources for writing grants and be able to manage those grants. This board did approve our grants manager position, and Debbie does a fantastic job, but she's only one person and she can't write every grant and chase every dollar. And we have a little bit of capacity to do that in the county, but not much. This, I've said it before, this county has not leveraged federal funds to any great degree, and there's a lot of missed opportunities there, and I want us to focus on that in the next year. So those are my accomplishments and goals at a high level. Next step is to give it back to you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll shut up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cates. Oh, thank you for turning the lights back on. I'll bring it to the board for questions, comments. Then we'll go to public comment, since this is an action item, and then after hearing public comment, we'll bring it back to the board for possible action. So, commissioners, Commissioner Noah said.
I understand what you're doing here, and I don't think that we as a board have enough feedback on all these complex issues to see where we stand. So I would make a recommendation later on, but I think we need more communication back to us on what's going on each of these subjects. For instance, this workshop, who's on it? The workshop you want to have conduct in 2 months. It's going to go over the priorities, projects, and goals.
That would be a board meeting that we would need to schedule.
That would be us.
Yes.
Okay. Is that going to be in public?
Yes, that would be a public board meeting. I just went through a few things that I see as priorities to sort of start that conversation. That'll be a topic for a later meeting.
Okay. Yeah, and each of these categories, I've noted a few, but do you set deadlines for completion of these projects, or these goals, priorities, et cetera? In other words, do you have a time chart that you expect to reach these goals by the end of the year?
Yes, yeah, it depends on what the goal is. Some of them are ongoing efforts, but yeah, we try to set deadlines for everything that we do to make sure they get accomplished.
Okay, given that, now I'm going to bring something else up. What, I would think that we, the board, should get input from you on a quarterly basis on the status of all of those things, priorities, et cetera. Is that possible?
Sure.
Will you do it?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ingles?
Okay, you and I go back to when you started. And last year, when the decision was made in regard to your salary, there were a lot of things that were included in that decision. I am not opposed to raising your salary. However, there are expectations that we do have. Now, you come in here this morning with a woe is me, I didn't get what I wanted and all that. I'd rather have somebody come in and say, this is what we've done, this is what we have achieved, and this is what we're going to go after. And I look back in retrospect and some of the things that complete waste of time. Agri-hoods comes to mind, and some other things. Now, there's a whole litany of things that come to my mind in regard to our relationship, which has not been particularly kumbaya. And I'm not going to be here next year. Don't you say, oh, goody. And, but, you know, just like code enforcement when we're setting up the VHRs, we had gone a couple of years with no code enforcement. It shouldn't have just been predicated on VHRs, but no, it wasn't done. I had to push for that. I had to push for code enforcement. I had to push for them to get badges. I had to push for them to get authority. I think we kind of got to that point, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything back on what they've been doing. The other thing is in regard to this business with the Department of Inspection. We are not having good results with this inspection department for inspecting homes and things of that nature. We have had several people besides Mr. Gaines who are highly experienced and well qualified who have worked for the county come in here and present negative observations in regard to that department. And it still seems to just be floating along and nothing getting done. And that wasn't even mentioned on your list of priorities. That should be on your list of priorities. It should be listed right up there in the top 5. Another thing we've got to start looking at too in our county is you've heard of the Pasadena Rose Bowl, you've heard the Florida Orange Bowl. We're going to have the Carson Valley Toilet Bowl at the rate we're going because sewage is becoming a major problem. We take all the sewage from the lake down in the holding areas that Bentley has. I agree it's potable. It's not potable water, but every time West Rice has its constitution in the morning, it comes down Kingsbury and goes out there. Then we've got the problems with septic tanks. And the 2 sewer plants that we have are already, well, one is already maxed out and the other one's going to be maxed out. And why it won't take discharge from septic deliveries, I don't know. So that's another thing that's going to have to be addressed. So there's a lot of things that, and we as commissioners, we don't always have to be the ones to spot this. Why am I looking at this and finding it? If I was going to manage this county, I would already be going after these things to correct them. But I'm not the manager. So you see, just to give you a 3% raise increase or whatever, because you're Patrick Cates, that's not the point. I'd be more than willing to do that if we see some results. a lot of these things are going to happen anyway. It's not like something that we need to get done and we need to get working on it. So that's the reason for it. And it's not because just being a hard ass, but I couldn't see the reason for giving a raise. Now, the last guy that was county manager, he was a real dud. I'll give you that you've done more than he has, but you got compensated a lot more than he has. So that was just, those are my feelings. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ingalls. Commissioner Tarkanian?
Yeah. A few things. My belief, and I've only been on the board now for about 14 months, is that the board should be looking and determining policy based upon what's brought before the agenda, and then you implement the policy that the board has. So some of these things that my esteemed colleague, Commissioner Ingalls, is saying, I think if something was going to be done about it, we should have brought it before the board. We should have discussed it and then directed you to do so. I don't see how you could be faulted for that. I do know that from my personal experience, I've had a lot of people call me, email me, ask me for help in certain areas. This is an unusual way this county is run. There is no, as you mentioned, a mayor. There is no staff for the county commissioners. So for us to do constituent outreach, we need to go through you to get it done. And I think I overwhelm you with many of these requests. I try to get back to our every single person that's emailed me about issues that they've had. And I've had some really nice responses for people saying that I've been receptive, but I've only been receptive when I get an answer from you, which has been most of the cases, although I got one I just sent to you that we haven't yet. But I feel for a guy that's running the whole county, just to respond to all my different requests is overwhelming, and I appreciate the time and effort you put into that. I think if there's things that aren't being done on the county that should be done, the board should be the ones that's directing you to do so. I've had a very good working relationship with you. I do not believe that you should have been denied any merit raise last year, and I didn't vote for that. We're sitting here giving county employees a 7% pay raise. Inflation is skyrocketing, and we're going to sit here today and decide whether to give you 0 or 3%. I don't know. I don't see how we can rationalize not giving you 3% under at least the relationship and the effort I've seen you provide me. And any faults that we have, I think, should be directed more towards the board. And the fact that you put so much time and effort in constituent outreach, which I think is so important. And then just the fact that your salary is worth a lot less now because of the current economic situation. So I'm all in favor of a 3% raise.
Thank you, Commissioner Tarkanian. Commissioner Rice?
Thank you. Mr. Cates, in my opinion, you have been incredible. This county, without you, would have been in such bad condition coming through the pandemic, and we came out of it in better shape than we went into it. And I credit you and your staff and the people that you surrounded yourself with for that fact. We are so respected by the other counties. In my role as the Rural Caucus Chairman, I get to travel the 15 rural counties in the state of Nevada. And I have to tell you that every one of them would love to trade places with us. This county has been so successful. The people in this county are so safe, and the problems of this county are dwarfed by the problems that other counties are having. Anything that I have asked for, you have given. Any problem that I have come to you with, you've had to resolve. I concur with Commissioner Tarkanian. What happened last time was abhorrent. It was a slap in the face to you and everybody that works for you. And I concur that I really believe that we would be malpracticing what we're supposed to be doing if we did not give you that 3% raise and say, thank God that you're here. Thank you for what you do. Thank you, Mr. Cates.
Thank you. Mr. Cates, as I indicated last year, and we had a conversation in the parking lot, if you recall, after that meeting, the action that the board took last year, in my mind at least, as we've talked, had nothing to do with your performance. And I hope you remember that conversation we had. Okay, it was strictly based on what I perceived at that time is your salary level in comparison with the other surrounding jurisdictions. And as I've gotten to work with you more closely over the last 4 months, I've come to understand and realize that although I thought I had a lot of balls in the air and tried to keep them from dropping and hitting us in a bad position, I've come to understand and realize that yours are 4 times probably greater than mine, if not greater. So, and I also have to understand that while each of us up here has an individual priority, you have to sit in your office and prioritize beyond that, so that things proceed in the right manner throughout the county. I've worked with you on a number of boards, China Spring, NACO, and things of that nature, and I certainly appreciate the involvement you have shown on behalf of Douglas County in those regards. So I do concur with Commissioner Noasad in regards to the updates, perhaps versus an annual update. And I would encourage, perhaps it would be even more beneficial for us individually to visit with you on a little bit more basis, maybe a quarterly basis, on an individual basis, and talk about what they see as priorities and what your progress is on those priorities. It might make them feel a little bit more comfortable in their stomach as we try to address our individual constituents who call us on a daily basis with their own individual priority. And that makes it difficult for us because, they might call Commissioner Tarkanian or Commissioner Noasad or Commissioner Ingalls or Commissioner Rice or myself, and they're focused on their one little item and want immediate, tomorrow, if not yesterday, help on that particular item. And so we're trying to juggle all of that while you're trying to manage the entire county. And so, I as Mr. Tarkanian is expressing, I've visited with you on a lot of individual bases, and I appreciate the assistance you've given me in trying to address our individual constituents' issues and concerns. So the one thing that I did mention last year that I still feel needs perhaps a little bit of focus, and I didn't see it here, is I still do not feel, and I hear from constituents, the idea that our website isn't necessarily as user-friendly as it possibly could be. And so I would ask you to add that to your balls in the air to see if we can do something about trying to just take a look at that and see if we might make it a little bit more user-friendly and direction for our citizens to be able to go on our website and pull up a particular department, and if it doesn't directly reflect upon the county, perhaps have a website, if it's clerk treasurer related or county sheriff related or something of that nature, direct them to their websites directly from our website. So that's just it's not a critical item, it's just something that continues to, I hear constituents on, on a timely basis saying, it's still not quite user-friendly. But it's been interesting listening to the other commissioners, and I appreciate your presentation. I would ask you to email this presentation to each of us so that we have it in our files and can review back as we go forward, so we can see where we are. But I too appreciate the fact that, and I understand, you know, I mean, I've never been reviewed in public. And I'm sure it's not an easy process. It's not an easy process for you. It's not an easy process for us either. I can assure you of that. Okay, all the reviews that I've ever been involved with have been private and with a supervisor, and we've been able to air out our differences and talk about goals and what we achieved, and sometimes our supervisors see us in a little different manner than we see ourselves. So it's not an easy process for us to have to sit up here and judge an individual in public. So I hope you understand and appreciate that. I don't know that that's a case that you've been involved with previously to becoming a county manager. I doubt that it is, right? So it's a little bit different process, and so I appreciate you. You have to, you know, put all the laundry out there to look at, and we have to assess it. So anyways, I appreciate that opportunity. With that, I won't say anything else. I'll just, at this time, this is a possible action item, so we'll go to Chambers here and see if there's any public comment that Chambers wishes to make.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner
Priority
Nosek?
here, please. Last year, when you did the presentation, there were 3 or 4 areas in which you admitted you didn't make progress or you didn't achieve what you were going to achieve. And I based my vote on that. Now, what I would suggest is that you condense that list down a bit and don't bite off more than you can chew. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to burst your bubble, but you are going to be evaluated in public 2 years from now.
And Mr. Tarkanian, in about 60 days, you're going to be judged in public as well.
54, but who's counting?
Just an observation. Yes, I understand that, Mr. Tarkanian, as you do, and I'm sure the rest of us do. So with that, we'll go to public comment. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, my name is Jim Jackson. I haven't had a lot of interaction with Mr. Cates, but the one interaction we did have was regarding the camping situation up off the Johnson Lane area. The first time I showed up at this meeting to voice my concerns about it, Mr. Cates came over and gave me his card and said he would love to put the meeting together that I was asking for. At the same time, the sheriff came over and gave me his direct line, which surprised me when I called him. He answered the phone. Anyway, I spoke with Mr. Cates' office, and within a matter of about a month and a half, and it was a month and a half with a lot of things going on, a meeting was put together at our house, and we had all of our neighbors. We had probably about 25 neighbors there. And he had put together almost as many people from the county and the Bureau of Land Management and the Sheriff's Department to voice or hear our concerns. The results of that meeting were that the camping area was changed, restricted, they were moved farther out, and this was all done within about a matter of 2 months after that meeting. All of our neighbors were extremely impressed with the reaction and how fast it was taken care of and everything. We had 2 of you commissioners showed up at our house at the same time, and we were very pleased with the results of that and everything. So I have to hand it to Mr. Gates when he offered to make that meeting happen. Well, he did and far exceeded our expectations of the meeting and everything. So the only other comment I have is, why do you have to limit it to 3%? So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Is there any further public comment?
Mr. Chairman, Jim Hartman for the record. I think it was about 3 years ago. when Mr. Cates got hired, I welcomed him to the county and said, I thought we were lucky to get him as a county manager here. He had a background in state government. Most recently, I believe, as the director of administration with Governor Sandoval. He was a holdover, maybe an unhappy holdover with Governor Sisolak. So I was actually quite thrilled that we got him here as our county manager. You know, we have had a checkered past in Douglas County of, frankly, in retaining managers, finding managers. We've had people come in for very brief periods of time and leave. We've had a county manager in place for 3 years and or more, and I think that's important to have continuity here. So I'm a big fan of Patrick Cates. I do think that, frankly, a county manager needs to listen to his bosses, the 5 county commissioners. And maybe there's a need for some improvement in that area. Sometimes I'm sure you as county commissioners can be difficult and challenging for a county manager, but it's his obligation to also listen to all of you. So as we go forward, I hope he's retained and stays, and I think it's important that he be retained and stay, but I also think he needs to listen a little stronger to maybe the will of his bosses, the 5 county commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hartman. Is there any additional public comment here in chambers? Sensing none, Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. There are a couple people who have indicated they would like to provide public comment. Jason, do you have public comment on item number 7?
Good morning, folks. I think we're live. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please state your name for the record and we'll start your time.
Thank you. Good morning or good afternoon. We've been observing from a distance throughout the day. Jason Garrett on behalf of the House of Gibson. No comment on issue 7. If issue 7 is the review of Mr. Cates and his performance and goals, then yes, we have a few comments. Mr. Cates, are you issue number 7? Is this the 7th?
Yes, Mr. Gibson, we're on that. We're on the performance review of Mr. Cates, so you can provide your comments, please. You are limited to 3 minutes. So.
Thank you. What an impressive display of cooperation and communication. I have to commend you all. It's a great amount of detail. There's so much that goes into managing a county, especially a county that's bursting at the seams. I've heard that Douglas County is now one of the most wealthiest counties in Nevada. Is that true, Mr. Cates?
For the record, Patrick Cates, I don't think we're supposed to have dialogue during public comment, but yes, I do believe we have the highest per capita income of any county in Nevada.
I see. Thank you. Do you have a theory as to why Douglas County doesn't have a mayor?
Mr. Gibson, we're not here to go back and forth on a question and answer period. We are here to listen to your comments in regards to Mr. Cates' performance.
I see. Well, obviously, Mr. Cates is well-versed and has got a handle on a great deal of detail and a great responsibility, I'm sure. I thought I heard him say that he makes $70,000 more per year than the city manager of Carson City. So we're curious as to what that salary cap may look like. You know, when the status quo symbol of success in your county is an $80,000 fancy truck pulling a 40-foot trailer with one or two people going to Disneyland for vacation on $5 a gallon, you really got to question the direction that this county is taking. So I just put that out there, that maybe less is more. Maybe we don't have to work as much as we do, and maybe we could cut back and begin to diversify some of our interests. We have a top-down management kind of approach to everything, but if we got into more of a holigarchy or holonomic reorientation to the way that we organize ourselves, that might be something that we would find a great deal of efficiency in. So I'll just put that out there, because we're going back to the law of time. We're going back to the county.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Your 3 minutes has exceeded, so we appreciate your comments. Thank you. Ms. Johnson, are there any other public comments available?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. Yes, there's still one more person online. Mr. Slade, do you have public comment on item number 7?
I do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please state your name and we'll start your time.
Jim Slade. I would first point out that Mr. Cates was one of the candidates that I supported when he first applied for the job and was appointed a few years back. I was at the meeting last year, or at least attending online, when his performance review was done, and I do recall that Commissioner Gardner and perhaps others tried to emphasize that they didn't feel that a 0% raise indicated a failure of performance. It was more of a financial concern. On the other hand, I certainly understand how Mr. Cates would take it as a sign of disrespect and be very unhappy with it. Just after that meeting, I actually emailed Mr. Cates saying I thought he had been treated unfairly, and that the perception that it left was unfortunate, and that I thought he should have been given some level of performance raise. Mr. Cates emailed me back and thanked me for my comments. I won't nitpick any particular issues here today, except that I would hope that the board would perhaps give him more direction on the performance of community development, but that's my particular issue. All I will say today is that I do believe that Mr. Cates this year is deserving of a 3% merit raise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slade. Ms. Johnson, are there any other online comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. There's no further public comment online at this time.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board for further comment and or a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Noisette.
I would caution Mr. Gibson and remind him that there is no in Nevada.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further comment, I would move that we approve a merit increase for Patrick Cates at 3% and thank him for a job well done.
Motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Ingalls, to approve a 3% merit increase for our county manager, Patrick Cates. I would like to offer a friendly amendment to that and make it retroactive to his anniversary date of March 7th of 2022.
Friendly amendment is accepted.
Okay.
No, you gotta hit a second first and discuss it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was a friendly amendment. Do I have a second to?
Second.
Okay. So to make the raise retroactive to May 7th of 2022, that has been accepted by Commissioner Rice and seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian. March 7th. Oh, did I say May? I apologize. My mistake. May 7th. March 7th. March 7th. I wrote it down here, but I wrote it down. I'm just not reading it right, folks. Okay, March 7th. And so that was seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Sensing no discussion on the amendment, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. That passes 5-0. Right, Mr. Ingles? I quite to hear you. Yeah, okay. So the motion as amended is to give Mr. Cates a 3% increase as of March 7th of 2022. Sensing no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. There you go, Mr. Cates. I hope you feel a little bit better about this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do. Much appreciated.
Very good. With that, we will go into item number 8 for presentation only. Reports, updates from county commissioner members concerning the various boards and/or commissions that they may be a member of or a liaison to, or meeting functions they have attended. I'll start down at the end. Mr. Tarkanian has nothing to say. Commissioner Nosad, nothing. Commissioner Ingles, nothing. Commissioner Rice.
Of course. I would like to remind everybody that on May the 6th, we're having our topping off ceremony at the Event Center at Lake Tahoe. We'll be putting the last beam into place, and there will be a hard hat guided tour for those that would like to do so. And also, we are meeting with the Tahoe Transportation District, trying to come up with a reasonable means of providing the circulator, the free transportation in the casino core to reduce VMTs, or vehicle miles traveled. We'll be working on that in the next several months. And the Lake Tahoe Visitor Authority has a new logo that they'll be working with. And a public art display is being contemplated through a grant to the TDVA, Tahoe Douglas. It will be, right now we're discussing endangered species, and this will be made out of trash removed from Lake Tahoe. The budget is about $50,000 at no taxpayer expense. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. I just had a couple of items. Number one, I wanted to remind the public that we have a special budget meeting scheduled for next Tuesday here in Chambers, starting at 10 a.m., I believe that is, to go over 9. Okay, thank you for that correction. 9 a.m. Okay, so that's good. I'll have to make sure I look at my schedule a little bit closer. Secondly, I witnessed the board actually did a presentation by CEO Jeff Prater with Carson Valley Medical Center last week at the Board of Health meeting regarding the expansion of Carson Valley Medical Center. Tremendous investment into our community. They have actually finally broken ground on that, and I would like to extend that offer to Mr. Prater to come before this board in a very near future to also show us exactly, and the community, exactly what's going to be taking place in South County in regards to that medical center, which should be a tremendous asset to our county. So with that, I have nothing else, and I appreciate everybody's attention today. At this time then, without further comments from the board, we'll go into closing public comment. Public comment will be taken on those items that are within the jurisdiction and control of the Board of Commissioners, or those agenda items where public comment has not already been taken. I want to remind members of the public that this is for items that are within the jurisdiction of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Thank you. And so public comment now is open. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Jim Jackson. A couple of things that were mentioned today when the BLM made their presentation. They were talking about the quarry out there, Painted Rock, and the access to it. We've had several discussions on the traffic that would be coming down Johnson Lane if that was put in out there. We've had discussions saying that that would never happen, that they would look for other routes. According to the person from BLM, it's a done deal. Johnson Lane is where they're going. She said that the other routes were not feasible, according to the BLM, and that they had to leave access to private land, that they couldn't really restrict that, which left it up to Douglas County when it hits Johnson Lane. If this is actually the case, you're going to have a lot of heavy truck traffic going through a residential area and a lot of very unhappy people. Property values will take a dive, accidents will happen up there, and heaven forbid, somebody might get killed up there. So we're hoping that that's not the case, but from what they said, it's now in your hands to stop them from coming down Johnson Lane. That was one thing. The other thing is there's been a lot of discussion about the airport having a tower going in. We discussed it here during the break. They say it would be for safety issues only. Probably would be to start out, but like all good things, if you follow the money, if a tower goes in, commercial flights can follow not too long after it. Even though they swear that that would not be the case, it would be. And I don't think people in the valley are ready for commercial flights to be coming in and out of Minden Tahoe Airport. The noise factor and everything would be not worth it. But we're hoping that what they're saying is true, is that the tower would be only for safety issues only. I didn't see anywhere in their presentation that they were actually planning on building the tower, but they're talking about it. And that's usually the first steps in that happening. And I think if the community is made aware of what is actually going to happen there, they'd be very much against the tower. If there could be guarantees that the tower would be strictly to control the air traffic in this area and not to allow larger aircraft to come in, I think you get my support if it can control SOAR Nevada and everything. So those were the two issues that I have. But the main one is the road, Johnson Lane, and the traffic coming down there. That, for all practical purposes, should not happen because it would not be safe, and it's a residential area. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Gene Robinson. I live in the Sunridge subdivision, and I overheard, I was take note of Mr. Cates alluding to how wealthy the residents here were in per capita income. What I wanted to say is I moved into my area with a lot of people who bought homes on blue-collar salaries, and one of their biggest concerns now is staying the pace with the cumulative cost of everything. And what I've heard here today is a lot of spending on stuff that we want, but we don't actually need. You know, so I'm alluding to water resolution 2022. It may have occurred before I came into the meeting for a water assessment for the state government. You know, I would like to see a directive from the board that the Douglas County is not going to participate in a water assessment in Douglas County and provide more funds to the state water department that doesn't need more funding. I heard a lot about purchasing a helicopter, and the Tamarack fire. It was U.S. Forest Service negligence that had that fire get out of control, and not the fact that we didn't own a helicopter to aid and assist them. I don't believe that we need to be purchasing a helicopter. I heard a lot about how wonderful the transponders work at the airport today, that they work so well that it's just inviolate in terms of the safety record with the transponders is impeccable and beyond reproach. So I don't see the need to be building and furnishing at taxpayer expense or grants a tower system for the airport. Everybody has a pipe dream on these things, that they have visions of grandeur to pursue some agenda that they have. But from what I understood from what was printed in the Record Courier, that there's great cause for concern for North County residents and the escalation of air traffic out of this airport and the flight patterns it would take over North County subdivisions and housing and communities up there. So that's it in a nutshell. You know, grant money, I mean, God, I would like a grant. I'm about $20,000 short on my budget now. Grants are just wonderful. But I'll close with that. there's a lot of people who are concerned about staying the pace right now with just keeping their homes, staying the pace with property taxes, escalating cost of water and sewer and issues like that and everything else they put their hands on. And I think we just need to be mindful of that in spite of how wealthy that we appear to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments here? Oh, yep. Leave that, please. Thank you. No other public comments here in chambers. Are there any public comments online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcia Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no public comment online.
Thank you. I would like to recognize that we have the director of our China Springs operation, right, Ms. Garrison? So hello, and thank you for coming and attending. I thought you might have something to say, but always glad to see you. So, okay. Sensing nothing else from the board, I will call the meeting adjourned for April 17th, April 21st, I guess it is. Yep. Thank you.
Recording stopped.